All right, Madam Clerk, we're done with executive session. So whenever you're ready, we can do a roll call again and get us started.
Okay. Roll call. Councilmember Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Brissette. Councilmember Glapion.
Present.
Councilmember Moreno.
Hold on, baby.
Here.
Hold on 1 second.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer. Councilmember Banks.
Here.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Here.
We have 5 members. We have a quorum. Councilmember, do you want to go to our matter that we were supposed to take up at 12:30?
Is that item 41?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that.
We're now going to go to page 41. Resolution R-211, Resolution R-21-124 by Council Members Moreno, Glapion, Banks, Gibson Palmer, and Brissette. A resolution in support of HB 243 filed by Louisiana State Representative Candace N. Newell, which provides for the decriminalization of marijuana possession and distribution.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me just start by making a few comments on this and really to say that in the state of Louisiana, in the Louisiana legislature, I really think that right now is our best shot to decriminalize cannabis and also to legalize and thoughtfully tax its use. There is legislation that's been filed by both Democrats and Republicans. It's getting a lot of bipartisan support. And so the resolution that I have today really shows the support for this. As we all know, for many years, advocates and policymakers have helped us to chip away at the structural inequality within the criminal legal system. And I've been really proud to work on a variety of these different measures to reduce the cycles of incarceration and injustice that undermine our communities. Fundamental to this work is emerging from the era of the war on drugs, which was a broad sweep of policies that failed to increase public safety, but it did in fact over-police and over-penalize Black and Brown communities. And that's why I'm proud to offer strong support to Representative Candace Newell's state legislation to decriminalize cannabis. This legislation would help to pave the way for an equitable new industry that can provide revenue to revitalize and restore communities ravaged by state action during Prohibition. The facts are really clear. Black and Brown communities have borne the brunt of enforcement during Prohibition. A recent study showed Black individuals are 3.4 times more likely than white people to be arrested for marijuana possession in Louisiana, despite comparable national marijuana usage rates. Louisiana was among 17 states where arrests for marijuana possession increased from 2010 to 2018, with the arrests increasing by more than 18.1% over that period. And I talked to Jeff Asher, who of course goes through a lot of our different crime statistics, and he was able to give me a report that showed that back in 2018, which is the last time that we collected a lot of this data, here in the city of New Orleans, 80% of people arrested on marijuana charges were Black, 86%, were Black, and 87% of people who received summons for marijuana charges were Black. So certainly there is a disproportionate impact in our Black community when it comes to marijuana. At least that's what it showed back in 2018. I have asked Jeff Asher, who is our crime analyst, to start taking a look at what the numbers have looked like over 2019, 20, and 21. And I want to thank Judge Sens over at Municipal Court, who's going to be providing a lot of that information over to Jeff Asher so that we can review. Legalization addresses really this fundamental source of racial and economic inequity in our criminal legal justice system. From criminal justice reform to job creation to funding critical needs, making this change really opens a world of possibilities. In order to truly repair the harm Prohibition caused, the next steps, including taxation, must be thoughtful. Investment in communities of color, must be prioritized. On the job front, hundreds of thousands of full-time jobs have been created in the states with legalization. The cannabis job market is made up of all types of workers, half of whom are paid over $50,000 a year, according to recent reports. And finally, of course, as many of us have seen, recent public polling has shown just expansive support for decriminalization in Louisiana, which has resulted, as I mentioned, in bipartisan support for many pieces of legislation going through this year's legislative session. So with that, I do want to turn it over to Representative Newell, if she's able to be with us. I know that she was interested in making some comments. She may not have joined us yet. So with that, I'll turn it over to some other council members if they'd like to make any comments. Councilmember Nguyen.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if you can add my name to the resolution. I believe I was swamped with emails last week, and I believe I saw your email and didn't know if I responded, but thank you so much for your leadership on this. And if you could add my name, it would be
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank
In
you.
fact, I thought you were already part of it anyway.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Councilmember Jeruso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just kind of want to point out a different tack on this, which is in 2010, the council made first-time simple possession of marijuana a municipal offense, allowing for summons instead of arrest. And then 2016, Mayor Landrieu signed a law led by Councilmember Guidry, essentially decriminalizing marijuana in the city of New Orleans. And really, instead of arrest, it's a summons, and your first conviction is a fine of $40, and your second one is a fine of $60. So for you scoring at home, you get more speeding in the city of New Orleans than being picked up with a joint. And so this is sort of the trend that the city has been following for a long time, and part of a larger national one as well. And I think my concern, and Councilmember Moreno, you talked about this, is if you are going to allow for recreational use, that also means creating efficiencies and equities within the system. And those would mean, in my view, A, allowing more focus for police on significant violent crime, and then B, the money that is raised, how are we going to use it? And I know some of my colleagues may say early childhood education or pre-trial consulting, mental health services, inpatient rehabilitation, job training. So I think as we think about this, that not only the fact that New Orleans has essentially had it decriminalized now for over a decade, and knowing that is not a problem, that we treat it not only as the commodity that it has been in other places, but then using that to level set and make sure that we're providing the best services possible for people across the board as a result of those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jeruso. And, I'll say, yes, absolutely. New Orleans has been leading on this, and there's even more that we can do. I've been proud to be working with some advocates and, of course, with our executive counsel, Adam Swensick, and there's more to come on this. So I'll be filing some ordinance for first read coming up in a couple of weeks that I'll be sending to your offices, hoping to get some supporting co-authors on additional cannabis legislation and ordinances for the city of New Orleans to take it even further and continue to lead on this particular effort. But with that, I do want to turn it over to Councilmember Banks. I saw you raising your hand too.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple of points. I understand very clearly where this legislation is going and why it needs to be, and I understand it for a very poignant reason. I had a cousin who was murdered, and the gentleman who killed him got 10 years. But I also had a cousin who was arrested for marijuana distribution. He got 35 years. Now, there's clearly something wrong with the system that someone who took a human life that can never be replaced, got a 10-year sentence, and somebody who was selling dope got 35 years. We clearly have the cart in front of the horse as it relates to marijuana in this state. And while I don't smoke weed, never been my thing, I just never was into marijuana. I know a lot of people do it, but I also don't believe that selling it or using it is as egregious as killing someone. But the system that we have now in place, you can actually serve less time for murder or manslaughter than you will serve for marijuana. And there's something patently and blatantly wrong with that. So I'm very happy to support Representative Newell. We had extensive discussions about this leading up to her filing it. And I'm very glad that she had the courage to do it. And I'm hopefully that the legislature will have the wisdom to be able to support it and to let this pass. Because we definitely have a screwed up system that is in place today. And then on the second note, and I would love to chat with you because I've got some marijuana related ordinances also that we are drafting. So we might be matching on some, but I'm pretty sure we can likely support each other's as it relates to being able to manage this once hopefully it happens. The economics of it are real. We need a funding system for early childhood development education. We will get tax dollars from this. The economics of it are going to make some people very, very wealthy. And what we need to also not lose sight of the fact is that we shouldn't have segments of the community that are only regulated to being consumers. We ought to have a system in place where the whole community can benefit, not just in the enjoyment if they choose to do that, but then the economics of being able to have the licenses to provide for it. So we cannot lose sight of this thing being holistic. And that is what I am working on now because I can see where this train is going. And we've got to be inclusive. And I think that all of this stuff ought to be reflective of this whole community. When you look at what happened with video poker came in and the law was written so that a very small segment of the state got to make real money. Now they allow ballrooms to have 2 or 3 machines, but only a very select group of people got to have casinos. Well, they make the real money. And we should not make that mistake if we're going down the path of legalizing marijuana eventually. It needs to be where everybody has the opportunity to benefit economically. So I'd love to chat with you on what you're working on, and I'll give you mine, and hopefully we can confect some together and work to get this to be the best possible result for the folks we are representing. So with that, thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Representative Newell.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks, and really look forward to work in partnership with you on this. And obviously, they'll be coming to your committee, my friends. So you'll be hearing and seeing a lot more of them, and look forward to working with you. Councilmember Palmer.
Yeah, I just really want to thank Representative Newell bringing this to everybody. You know, New Orleans has been a leader, and we're consistently sending folks that are progressive to the state legislature. And so I just really want to thank. I also want to take this opportunity too to thank Councilmember Guidry. We were both on the council together when we started this process of decriminalizing marijuana. And so this is a continuation of that. And I'm just really thrilled to be here to continue the work and to keep continuing it. So thank you so much, Candace.
Councilmember Brissette, do you have
Thank
anything?
you, Council. Yeah, thank you, Council President Moreno, and also joining my colleagues. I would like to please add my name. And as Council President and I have come from the legislature, we both know that this is way overdue. And thank Council Representative Newell for filing the legislation. Councilmember Moreno and I were there for, of course, the medical marijuana with the different universities growing medical marijuana, and this will go, you know, much of our resources throughout the state, whether it be mental health services or medical needs for our seniors, education. These are many of needs that the proceeds could go from the legalization. And I hope that we join the choir of states that have done this already because we are behind the times. Glad to have been part of locally reducing penalties of marijuana possession here in Orleans Parish. It is now a citation for first offense. We have to think wiser and better as we talk about criminal justice reform and how we deal with this non-violent substance. And I'm glad to join with my colleagues in support. So thank you, Councilmember Moreno, for bringing this, and looking forward to continuing to push the envelope.
Thank you, Councilmember Brusted. And you know, back when we were in the legislature together, I mean, it was such a tough fight just on the medical marijuana front. You know, I remember myself and Senator Mills carrying one of the initial medical marijuana bills, and really I stood on the House floor for hours debating the bill because there was so much opposition to it. So going from that point back in 2014, 15, and 16 to where we are now, to having, you know, really bipartisan support on legalization, decriminalization, and thoughtful taxation of cannabis is just really tremendous to see. But it also goes to show that, you know, if we take a look at some of the other states where there has been legalization and taxation of cannabis, what we have seen is that all of these big fears about all these public safety issues that the people were initially concerned about, those did not come to fruition. And so, you know, it is something that has been working for many different states. 16 states now have legalized cannabis for recreational use. Not all of them tax, 12, I believe 12 of them tax, but it's just the right move for Louisiana. I just think it makes all the sense in the world, particularly if we're talking about job creation. And, you know, it's all types of jobs, not just on the cultivating side, you know, I mean, from accountants to bankers to, you know, you name it, that all become part of this industry. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, more than half of the jobs in the cannabis industry in the states that have it are making more than $50,000 a year annually. So this could be a real boost to our economy. And what we have to look at here, and I know this seems to be like where Councilmember Banks was going to, is the local tax piece. You know, there's the state tax piece, but then it's the local tax piece. And that's something that I'd really like to start working on now to actually try to put something on the November ballot for, because I know that we're too late to try to get something on the October ballot, but just in case there should be legalization coming down the pipeline in the state, I want to make sure that we locally would be ready to do some type of taxation as well, and then move forward with what Councilmember Banks would want to do as far as putting those specific tax dollars and making sure that they go to specific causes like early childhood education within our city's budget.
And to your point, equity protections around dispensary and production.
That's right. Representative Newell, are you with us? Is she on?
Yes, this is Representative Newell. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you for being with us. I wanted to allow you the opportunity to make any comments or let us know how we can help with your legislation up in Baton Rouge. It's really important.
First of all, thank you all for the resolution and supporting the decriminalization bill that has been filed. I also, listening to what you were saying right before I came on about deregulation and legalization, I've also filed a bill for that, and I do plan on filing tax component to that to ensure that the state and local governments can benefit from the legalization and regulation of this. And I would hope to have your support, but it sounds like I already do have your support for the regulation and legalization as well. And I just wanted to echo what you were saying, just the job creation from this will be just unbelievable. article just yesterday that stated that the states who have already gone to legalization and regulation, those states have created 200,000 jobs that's direct working with the production and the sales of the marijuana. But combined with the other jobs, the accountants, the people that sell the flour for the edibles, the people that sell the bags for the of 350,000 jobs just from those few states. So the job production is there, the money definitely is there. I want to say it was Washington who claimed $174,000 just after the first fiscal year after the after it went legal. So I'm just hoping that my colleagues can come along and see the benefit of this to our state. It's proven that arresting people, putting them in jail, it hasn't been beneficial to the state as a whole, and it's just created a population of people who do not qualify for some job for a mistake they may have made years ago, something that they did, that they indulged in on a social basis. But now this is an opportunity for those people to get back into the workforce. And I just want to say again, just thank you. Thank you all for your supporting me and this effort. And I would like to use, the only thing I want to add right now is to be able to use the resolution to show some local support when I go to defend this bill.
Absolutely. So we will be sending you a copy of this, and I'm happy to send it to members of the legislature as well. Thank you so much, Rep. Newell.
Thank you so much. I have a great day.
Okay, you too. All right, members. So we will go now to public comment. Teresa, is there any public comment on this?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I'll make a motion to adopt. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilmember Nguyen. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the resolution has been adopted. At the top of the same page, we have motion M21-122 by Council Members Gissison Palmer and Nguyen, directing the City Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing to consider amending and reordaining ordinance number MCS 4264 as amended by ordinance number 26,413 MCS as amended, the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the City of New Orleans, to consider amending the permitted and conditional use table in Article 12, Table 12-1, to provide that the commercial use of grocery store in an HU-MU zoning district above 10,000 square feet can be granted via a conditional use, and to amend section 12.2.B.1 correlating prohibition therein.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Christian, you want to start, or? And you on mute too. You on mute, Christian.
I think you're muted, Kristen.
So sorry. Okay. I move for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Nguyen. Thank you so much. Council members, this proposed text amendment would be a citywide change to the HU-MU zoning district for grocery stores only. Currently, HU-MU zoning caps grocery stores at 10,000 square feet. However, a full-scale grocery store often takes up to 20 to 25,000 square feet. Currently, while the 10,000 square foot restriction makes sense in many mixed use areas where an HUMU lot could not reasonably accommodate a use beyond that size, there are instances in the city where HUMU lots are much larger and could support what we would consider a standard size store. Rather than upzoning those lots and thereby allowing a new set of permitted uses that might not be compatible for a mixed use area, this text amendment proposes creating a conditional use to go above 10,000 square feet for grocery stores in the HUMU districts that meet requirements that CPC establishes in its report. I know my team has checked with all the other offices prior to this. Councilmember Nguyen, did you want to have any other comments on this?
Yeah, just a few remarks. Christian, thank you so much for working with us. I know we've worked on a number of zoning dockets to reduce restriction on grocery stores throughout the city and increase food access in our communities. So the HUMU zoning district is found in the Lower 9 Ward in District E. And this zoning docket would allow for larger grocery stores that currently permitted. It is my hope that reducing land use restriction for a grocery store, we can bring one permanent to the Lower 9 Ward. So thank you so much for your partnership and work on this.
Great, thank you. Any other council members? Great, with that, Ms. Laura, can we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Hey,
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. We're now going to go to the regular order of the agenda on page 9. Regular agenda, land use matters. All land use are scheduled to commence at 11 a.m. or thereafter. All public comments on land use items are subject to City Council Rule 10.1B, whereby each land use matter is limited to a maximum public comment period of 20 minutes, with speakers being limited to 2 minutes per item. No ceding of public speaking time is permitted. The demolition request of Roy Farris Jr. has been deferred to April 22nd. The demolition request of Sean Killian has been deferred to April 22nd. On top of page 10, the demolition request of Jackson Keon has been deferred to April 22nd. Demolition request of Sean C. Turner has been withdrawn.
So ordered.
On page 11, the demolition appeal of Sean Turner has been withdrawn.
So ordered.
Legislative grouping, HDLC appeal of Craig Scott, PSG LLC, requesting to appeal the Historic District Landmarks Commission's decision of a $10,000 fine for the deviation of the certificate of appropriateness for renovation for property located at 632 Annunciation Street. We have motion M21-128 by Councilmember Jeruso. Motion denying the appeal of a $10,000 fine for the deviation of the certificate of appropriateness for renovation for property located at 6322 Annunciation Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Eleanor, are you here to report on this?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. 6322 Annunciation Street is a contributing rated structure located in the Uptown Partial Control Historic District. The wood frame 1.5-story residence was constructed prior to 1896 as evidenced by 1896 Sanborn maps. In July of 2019, the owner applied to demolish the entire roof to create a 2-story structure. The application went before the commission at their August 2019 meeting and was denied due to the extent of the demolition being proposed. The owner then submitted a revised application proposing a camelback addition set 2 original rooms back from the front wall of the original structure, which is what the HDLC recommends. The matter went back before the commission at their October 2019 meeting. The staff recommended approval of the revised proposal, even though the design called for the demolition of 77% of the historic structure, only because it preserved the historic integrity and materials of the original front 2 rooms. During the final inspection in November of 2020, HDLC inspectors observed that the second floor Camelback had actually been constructed closer to the front building wall than the approved plans had allowed. HDLC reconfirmed this measurement at a follow-up inspection and determined the Camelback setback was only 15 feet 2 from the front building wall rather than the 18 feet 8 inches that was approved. The applicant went before the commission at their March 10th, 2021 commission meeting to request retention of the excess roof demolition. As was discussed with the applicant during the review process, the setback approved by the commission was much less than is typically permitted because the windows on the first floor right elevation would imply the historic 2-room setback from the street. However, the current Camelback location obscures this relationship, and from the street, it appears the Camelback is located only 1 room back from the front building wall. Because the applicant was aware of the need for commission approval for the increase in roof demolition and exceeded the approved scope without consulting the HDLC staff in advance, the staff recommended approval of the retention application and a fine between $3,000 to $7,000. At the hearing, the commissioners reviewed the staff report, staff recommendation, approved drawings, photos of the built condition, and the owner's testimony. After some discussion, Stephanie Bruno, the commissioner for the Uptown Historic District, made a motion to allow retention of the demolition and to levy a fine of $10,000 for the illegal demolition. In making the motion, Commissioner Bruno stated the importance of levying the maximum fine so that the public understands that there are consequences for demolishing historic structures. The motion, seconded by Donna Wakeman, passed 11-2. The New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission was given 4 partial control demolition review only historic districts, Uptown, Carrollton, Mid-City, and Parkview, by the City Council in 2017. The purpose of these 4 partial control districts is to preserve and maintain the architectural quality and character of these neighborhoods through the review of demolition. As property values and demand for high land in New Orleans increased following Hurricane Katrina, Uptown has suffered from a high rate of demolition of its contributing rated structures to allow for larger homes that do not relate well to the existing historic context. Recognizing this negative trend, the mayor and city council established a study committee to evaluate the areas for designation as a demolition-only historic district. By establishing the Uptown Historic District, the mayor, city council, and neighborhood stakeholders and New Orleans citizens recognized the benefit of protecting the historic structures and preventing inappropriate infill in their place. The HDLC recognizes that historic structures must adapt to survive. As a result, the HDLC developed a policy for additions to historic structures that allows for buildings to be enlarged while still maintaining the architectural character and historic significance. The policy requires that a relatively small portion of the original historic structure, the original front 2 rooms, be preserved and allows a larger additions beyond that point. It is important that a certain proportion of the original structure remains so that the mass of the larger 2-story rear addition does not visually overwhelm the smaller 1-story historic structures. The front 2 rooms of typical historic New Orleans structures measure between 20 to 24 feet total. By establishing this policy, the rest of the building is allowed to be demolished. In a majority of cases, the HDLC is allowing between 60 and 75% of our historic structures to be demolished. This very generous policy, while not considered ideal from an historic preservation standpoint, reflects the extent to which the Commission has endeavored to work with property owners and developers in the historic districts. The HDLC requires that at a minimum, the front 2 original rooms be kept because it simply doesn't make sense to have a conservation district that doesn't conserve some portion of the historic structure. The problem begins when the owners are not satisfied with demolishing just a majority of a historic structure. They want to demolish more than the first 2 original rooms because those original rooms often get in the way of programmatic desires and marketable square footage. It becomes eminently clear that the property was purchased not because of the historic structure that is on it, but because of the desirability of the location. This is particularly true when that location is 1 block from Audubon Park. The owner purchased 6322 Annunciation Street in May of 2019 for $470,000. The stated price for the cost of the renovation, as documented in the permitting application, was $236,000. Altogether, the owner's total investment in the property is $706,000. The building is currently listed for sale for $1.2 million. Wow. If it sells at or near this price, the profit margin could be $540,000. Even if the actual total redevelopment cost was $100,000 more than stated, this project could still yield what can only be considered a robust $440,000 profit margin. With those kinds of returns on investment, it's not surprising that every single modest historic home in the Uptown Historic District has a demolition target on its back. The HDLC urges the City Council to support the HDLC in the role it gave to us in 2017, protecting and maintaining the original fabric of our historic neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. I appreciate it. I will move as stated in 6B. May I have a second, please?
A second.
Second, sir.
Second by Councilmember Palmer. I know we have at least one public comment, and I have a couple things I want to say. May we have that public comment read, please?
Yes, Councilmember. It is from Craig Scott. My family had hoped to move back to NOLA and reestablish residence there close to Children's Hospital because we have a special needs child with autism. Sadly, the recent issue of helicopter flyovers now makes that impossible for us because our son is hypersensitive to loud noises such as planes, helicopters, etc. When I realized that the home remodel is in violation of the second level by just over 2 feet, I simply request some understanding of our family situation and adjust the fine to something more reasonable. Every attempt to preserve the cottage look of this home was made, and the error was not intentional. During construction, termite damages were noted to the front wall and remediation of that area was required. While repairing this area, the framers accidentally reset that wall more forward than originally planned. I was born and raised in NOLA and would never have intentionally done anything that might infringe on the ambience and charm of the neighborhood. I ask that the committee simply levy a fine that is more reasonable based upon our unique circumstances as a family. Thank you for all your consideration. That's the only comment.
Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate it. And I will say to Mr. Scott, and I spoke with Mr. Burris yesterday, I've not been afraid to either modify or overrule HDLC or CPC from time to time. And B, I'm not unsympathetic to what you say and understand that what your intent was. I think my concern is a couple of things that Eleanor mentioned in her discussion, and also sort of the atmospherics of what we're dealing with right now too. The owner submitted plans that was granted 77% demolition, which is significant. And then this went another 23% and beyond that. Moreover, as my colleagues are probably tired of hearing me talk about, we were dealing with the doubles to dormitories issue in the University, Maple, Carrollton, Hollygrove, Dixon, and now even Broadmoor area. And I am concerned about setting bad precedent when it comes to letting off people who either don't comply with the rules for intentional reasons or otherwise. And finally, my concern would also just be that we have to be careful when it comes to matters such as these, that it becomes a cost of doing business. And if we start lowering fines as a result, that we start getting into a spot of allowing that to be known as a known cost, that it's okay if a rule gets broken, the council is just going to lower it anyway. And so while I don't ascribe any intent in this interest because of the presidential value because of what's happening in this neighborhood overall. I've moved to uphold HDLC. Do any of my colleagues have any comments? All right, with that, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jerusalem.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome. We're now on top of page 12. We have a legislative grouping, zoning docket 321, City Council Motion M2400. Requesting a text amendment to the comprehensive zoning ordinance to establish the Algiers Riverfront Overlay District to ensure that certain uses and designs are compatible with and preserve the character and integrity of Algiers, applying to all lots except for those zoned neighborhood open space OS-N within the following boundaries: the Mississippi River at the Crescent City connection to Brooklyn Avenue, continuing along Brooklyn Avenue, including Brooklyn Avenue becoming Powder Street, continuing along Powder Street to Pelican Avenue, continuing along Pelican Avenue to Booney Street, continuing along Booney Street to Delaronde Street, continuing along Delaronde Street to Segan Street, continuing along Segan Street to Morgan Street, continuing along Morgan Street until it becomes Patterson Road, continuing along Patterson Road to Hendy Street, and from Hendy Street north to the Mississippi River. The review of the proposed amendment shall include the following considerations. 1, regardless of any law to the contrary, the height shall be limited to 40 feet and no more than 3 stories. 2, in the MU1 and MU2 base zoning districts, the design standards shall be as provided in the HU-MU district. 3, the option of down zoning the base zoning within the entirety of the proposed overlay or any part thereof in order to achieve limited use and design restrictions. Any down zoning proposal is subject to a maximum base height of 40 feet and 3 stories. Number 4, the option of amending the existing riverfront overlay RIV-2 Algiers Sub-District Standards, Section 18.13.g of the Comprehensive Zoning Code to eliminate or modify the limit increase, to modify the height limit increase so that only a maximum of 5 feet beyond the height limit of the underlying zoning district is permitted. The intent of this possible revision is to consider allowing only the minimum height bonus necessary to achieve a view of the riverfront from the upper story or stories of a 3-floor development. If no such height bonus is necessary to achieve this view, the intent is to remove the option of any height bonus under the RIV-2. Number 5, in conjunction with 5 above, the option of amending the existing riverfront overlay RIV-2 Algiers Subdistrict Standards, Section 18.13.g of the Comprehensive Zoning Code to add a possible parking bonus as a replacement for the current height limit increase or supplement to a reduced height limit increase. The intent of this possible revision is to establish an affordable housing incentive that is more compatible with the neighborhood than the current height limit increase. All lots except for those zone neighborhood open space OSN within the following boundaries: the Mississippi River at the Crescent City connection to Brooklyn Avenue, continuing along Brooklyn Avenue, including Brooklyn Avenue, becoming Powder Street, continuing along Powder Street to Pelican Avenue, continuing along Pelican Avenue to Booney Street, continuing along Booney Street to Delaronde Street, continuing along Delaronde Street to Segan Street, continuing along Segan Street to Morgan Street, continuing along Morgan Street until it becomes Patterson Road, continuing along Patterson Road to Hendy Street, and from Hendy Street north to the Mississippi River. The recommendation of the city planning being for modified approval. And on page 14, we have the motion M21-125. Councilmember Gissison Palmer. A motion approving the favorable recommendation of the City Planning Commission of zoning docket 321 with additional modification to the height limitations in section 18.25.c, which shall read as follows. Section 18.28 Algiers Riverfront Use and Height Restriction Overlay. 18.28.c Building Design Limitation. The following building design standards and requirements shall apply to any new structure, major renovation, or expansion within the boundaries of the Algiers Riverfront Use and Height Overlay District without regard to its use. A, except as provided in subsection B, the height shall be limited to 60 feet and no more than 5 stories, and the density as provided in the base zoning district unless the building meets the standards described in Article 18, Section 18.13.g. B, for properties with street frontage located along Brooklyn Avenue between Opelousas Avenue and Socrates Street, including lots that front the following streets that intersect with Brooklyn Avenue, Opelousas, Slidell Street, Homer, Newton, Diana, Lamarck, Socrates, Ptolemy, and Lawrence Streets. The height shall be limited to 40 feet and no more than 3 stories, and the density as provided in the base zoning district unless the building meets the standards described in Article 18, Section 18.13.g. Number 1, such properties are permitted a maximum building height of 40 feet with a maximum height of 3 stories along Brooklyn Avenue frontage. Number 2, any additional height above 40 feet obtained through the height bonus provided in section 18.13.g shall be set back from the front property line at Brooklyn Avenue at a minimum distance of 1 foot for every 1 foot in height, up to the maximum of 60 feet and 5 stories. C, flat roof structures shall provide an adequately sized parapet in order to mitigate the sight of rooftop equipment. D, where provided as accessory flat roof features, open space located on roofs shall be excluded from the calculation of building height and gross floor area in accordance with section 21.6.0. Or is that 0? That's the motion.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Laura. I appreciate you. I move for modified approval of the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Mr. Kramer, would you like
Thank you, council member. This text amendment requesting the establishment of the Algiers Riverfront Overlay District is a follow-up to the Algiers Riverfront Interim Zoning District, which was adopted in March 2019 and extended through March 2021. The present text amendment proposes to renew many of the provisions of the Algiers Riverfront Interim Zoning District and apply these as permanent overlay district rather than an IZD. According to the council motion, the overlay district is needed to prevent developments which may be detrimental to the character and scale of the adjacent historic neighborhoods. The restrictions described in the council motion limit the uses permitted by right and request an amendment to the design requirements for buildings in the overlay to align with the HUMU design standards. City Planning Commission recommend modifications that recognize the intent of the motion while staying consistent with the master plan for areas currently zoned MU1 and with the future land use of mixed use medium intensity. The commission recommended a rezoning to HUMU. The commission also recommended reducing the number of uses controlled through the overlay district, as many of the uses are fairly low intensity and already present in the overlay area. The commission also recommended a 25-foot height limit reduction, placing a 60-foot and 5-story cap on development within the proposed overlay that is not already restricted by the base zoning. To stay in alignment with the goals of the master plan, the commission recommended that the bonuses offered through the RIV2 overlay be retained, such that buildings have the opportunity to achieve an additional 25 feet in height by providing public benefits through the inclusion of affordable housing, energy efficient buildings, and public plazas. So the City Planning Commission recommended modified approval.
Great, thank you so much. Council members, as you recall, that in early 2019, we approved the Algiers Riverfront IZD, which we've since extended twice and is about to expire. Throughout all of this, residents' priority has been limiting the maximum building height, particularly the area in Riverview where the current riverfront overlay allows for buildings up to 110 feet. The West Bank's relationship to the river is a very special one because residents have both visual and physical access in a way that is precluded on the East Bank. My approval largely goes along the recommendations put forth by the CPC, but with one important modification at the request of the Algiers Riverview Association. In order to ensure design that is more compatible with the neighborhood, we're putting in design standards for buildings along Brooklyn Street that caps the height at the street frontage by 40 feet and 3 stories. Developments that afford themselves the bonuses built into the overlay will be able to add additional 2 stories and 20 additional feet, provided they step back the additional height. These types of step backs are consistent with design standards in other zoning districts, and I believe will preserve sight lines while still allowing for reasonable development to occur. Before moving to comments, I want to thank the leadership and bodies of Algiers Riverview and Algiers Point Association for their engagement with my office throughout this process, even through all the hurdles the past year have given us. So with that, are there any questions? Nope, great. Ms. Laura, do we have any public comments?
One.
We have one public comment from James C. Goodwin. The Algiers Point Association, APA, supports zoning docket number 321, City Council motion number M2400, which includes recommendations proposed and or approved by the APA Civic Engagement Zoning and Planning Committee and approved by the APA Board of Directors. That's the only comment.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to read Mr. Dunn's public comment. He sent me a comment. He is president of the Algiers Riverview Association, and he says that the Algiers Riverview Association wants to thank Council Lady Palmer for her leadership in helping us to determine and decide what is in the best interest of our community and not just the interest of developers. Let it be known that 40 feet is what we want and all agreed to. We oppose the height bonuses, regardless of the perceived associated benefits of the height bonus. Far too often, multi-unit developments in neighborhoods become disasters after time, and the lackluster has passed. Algiers community experienced that with the General de Gaulle, Higgins Gate, and with the old Fisher Home developments. We would love affordable and mixed housing along with modern New Orleans doubles and let the multiple units thrive downtown or where the people want them. Again, thanks for the 40, but no height bonus. Alex Elgo Dunn, president of Algiers Riverview. And that is all we have. So with that, can we please have a vote?
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette.
Yay.
Gotcha. Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted.
Thank you,
On top,
Council.
you're welcome. On top of page 16, all matters. Zoning docket 921 has been deferred to April 22nd. Zoning docket 1121 has been deferred to zoning docket 921 has been deferred to April 22nd. Zoning docket 1121 has been deferred to April 22nd. On top of page 18, legislative grouping. Zoning docket 1321, 634 Orange Street, LLC. Requesting a conditional use to permit the retail sale of packaged alcoholic beverages in an MU2 high-intensity mixed-use district on Square 82, Lot 82, C1. Excuse me, council members. That first motion is withdrawn, but they got a second one. They got a substitute on page 19. Okay. I'm sorry. Requesting a conditional use to permit the retail sale of packaged alcoholic beverages in an MU2 high-intensity mixed-use district on Square 82, Lot 82, C1 in the First Municipal District bounded by Orange Street, St. Thomas Street, Religious Street, and Richard Street. Municipal address 634 Orange Street, Suite A. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval, subject to 2 provisos. Motion line over M21-118 has been withdrawn.
So ordered.
On top of page 19 at the bottom, substitute motion M21-118 by Councilmember Banks, approving the conditional use subject to 2 provisos as provided in the city planning report with the addition of 6 provisos for a total of 8 provisos. Number 3, signage advertising the sale of alcoholic beverages shall not be visible from the public right of way. Number 4, the applicant shall provide to the City Planning Commission staff a litter abatement program letter approved by the Department of Sanitation, inclusive of the stated location of trash storage, the type and quantity of trash receptacles, and the clearing of all litter from the sidewalks and periodic hosing of the street right-of-way. The name and phone number of the owner-operator of the development shall be included in this letter to be kept on file in case of any violation. In no case shall trash be stored so that it is visible from the public right-of-way. Number 5, a sale of alcoholic beverages shall be restricted to those for consumption on premises only. Number 6, the consumption of alcoholic beverages and loitering in front of the structure or in the adjacent right-of-way shall be prohibited. Number 7, the single serve of alcoholic beverages, including but not limited to any alcoholic beverage packaged and sold individually as a single serving, as well as bottles or containers of wine or distilled spirits less than 700 milliliters shall be prohibited unless purchased in conjunction with food. Hours of operation shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I know Stephen is here to present. If you would, please, Stephen.
Yes, thank you, Council Member. This is a conditional use application affecting a restaurant and retail store called the Commissary Eatery and Market, which is on Orange Street in the Lower Garden District, in a development that has been recently renovated from industrial to commercial use. The establishment is part restaurant, and then it has a retail store component, and this application is to allow alcoholic beverages to be sold in that retail store, among other grocery items. The zoning analysis is really about the question of whether the alcoholic beverage sales would have a land use impact that would be problematic. This is zoned MU2, which is a very high intensity mixed use district, and so this sort of sale and retail activity is appropriate given the purpose of that district. There's nothing inherently problematic about alcohol sales that makes it any necessarily more problematic than any other grocery item. And so the commission is supportive of that. Additionally, there was no neighborhood opposition expressed to the Planning Commission, and so the Planning Commission recommends approval with 2 provisos.
Thank you, Stephen. Colleagues, I'm going to move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this development, as with all that we do, we try very hard to make sure that commercial developments inside of residential neighborhoods end up being an asset and not a burden. So we have gone through our typical dance of provisos, and we were very intent with these alcohol provisos because we do not want to create nuisances for the neighbors. So typically, we limit the alcohol sales to 750 milliliters or above. In this one, we allow them to have individual servings because they do sell food. So if you go in there and get your dinner, you'd be able to get a single serve of wine or to buy a single beer, but they can only buy those individual bottles, those individual smaller bottles with the purchase of food. So we think this is a good project, and I ask for your support. I don't know, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
All right. and the Lower Garden District Association, we've worked very closely with them. They are in support of, so there was no neighborhood opposition. As a matter of fact, I think that the neighbors are welcoming this. So with that, I would ask your favorable consideration, Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. We're now on the bottom of page 20. Zoning docket 1421 has been deferred to April 22nd. On top of page 21, a legislative grouping, zoning docket 1521, PMAT Algiers Plaza LLC, requesting an amendment to ordinance number 24,812 MCS zoning docket 12011 to permit a fast food restaurant with drive-through facilities in a C3 heavy commercial district and SC Suburban Corridor Use Restriction Overlay District and CT Corridor Transformation Design Overlay District on square H through D, Lot 1, in the 5th Municipal District, bounded by General de Gaulle Drive, Holiday Drive, MacArthur Boulevard, and Rue Park Fontaine, municipal address 4100 through 4150 General de Gaulle Drive, and 3008 through 3070, except 3014 Holiday Drive. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval, subject to 11 waivers and 33 provisos. We have motion M21-123 by Councilmember Gibson Palmer. A motion approving the favorable recommendation of the City Planning Commission on zoning docket 1521, subject to 2 waivers and 11 provisos, with an amendment to waiver number 2, the inclusion of 3 additional waivers and amendments to provisos 2 and 4 as provided as following, for a total of 5 waivers and 11 provisos. Waivers only applicable to the drive-through fast food restaurant Chick-fil-A and Building B. Number 2, the applicant shall be granted a waiver of Article 24, Section 24.11.f, wall sign of the comprehensive zoning ordinance, which allow 1 wall sign on the front elevation to permit 4 wall signs, 1 per building elevation. Number 3, the applicant shall be granted a waiver of Article 15, Section 15.3.b, Building Design Standards, subsection 15.3.b.1a of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, which requires the primary entrance to be oriented to the street, to allow the primary entrance to be oriented toward the buildings B and the interior of the shopping center. Number 4, the applicant shall be granted a waiver of Article 15, Section 15.3.b, Building Design Standards, subsection 15.3.b.1.b of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, which requires the newly constructed building to contain a minimum transparency of 50% on the primary street, to allow for the shopping center to contain, on the primary street, to allow for the elevation facing Building B and the interior of the shopping center to contain a minimum transparency of 50%. Number 5, the applicant shall be granted a waiver of Article 23, Section 23.6.b, front landscape yard of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, which requires a front landscape yard a minimum of 10 feet in width along the front line for the portion of the site in front of the newly constructed building and Building B, to allow for the existing landscaping buffer to be maintained outside of the property line. Provisos only applicable to the drive-through fast food restaurant Chick-fil-A and Building B. Number 2, the applicant shall submit final plans showing compliance with all design standards listed in Article 15, Section 15.3.b of the CZO, with the exception of any waivers specifically granted herein. Additionally, design of the fast food restaurant and the building B retail structures shall be complementary to the existing structures along General de Gaulle Drive. This shall be accomplished through the following, subject to the review and approval of the City Plan Commission staff. A, the materials and color schemes of the fast food restaurant and building B retail structures shall be consistent with the existing structures facing General de Gaulle Drive. B, pedestrians walkways shall be provided that connect the fast food restaurant and building B with each other, as well as the adjacent structures along General de Gaulle Drive. The new pedestrian walkways shall be similar to the existing brick pattern stamped concrete walkways. Number 4, the applicant shall submit a landscape plan that complies with Article 23 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, subject to the review and approval of the Department of Parks and Parkways. The landscape plan shall be prepared by a licensed Louisiana landscape architect and indicate the following. A, the genus, species, size, location, quantity, and irrigation of all existing and proposed plant materials within both the common areas and the street rights of way within the site with applicable remarks and details. B, an above ground sunlit parking lot, stormwater detention, BMP, shall be worked into the interior or perimeter of every parking facility to capture, filter, infiltrate, and store the first flush 1.2 less than 1.25 coming off of the parking surface area pursuant to Article 23, Section 23.7.8.6. C, interior parking lot landscaping, including parking lot islands and or landscape areas in accordance with Article 23, Section 23.7.c. And D, parkway trees in accordance with Article 23, Section 23.11. That's it.
Sure, Ms. Johnson? I'm sorry to do this to you today. All right, I'm going to move for modified approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Mr. Kroll.
Thank you, Councilmember. This is a conditional use ordinance to amend the existing ordinance that regulates the Algiers Plaza Shopping Center on General de Gaulle and Holiday in Algiers. The plaza, or the center, has a cohesive design, and this is intended to allow new construction elements that continue to contribute to the cohesiveness of that design. So the plan at this point is really twofold. There's an existing building, which is a retail structure along General de Gaulle that's going to be downsized. The space it frees up will be used for the new construction of a Chick-fil-A fast food restaurant that'll be located along General de Gaulle on the front portion of the shopping center site. Purpose of the conditional use review is to make sure that the design of these new components integrate well into the overall shopping center design, and that there are no significant land use impacts. Given the size of the site, the location, the intensity of the new development, and particularly the vehicular use of the Chick-fil-A is not problematic, is actually really appropriate for this site. And so the Planning Commission is supportive, subject to a couple of waivers as well as provisos that are, again, all about making sure that the new development meshes well with the existing and creates a really wonderful shopping center environment. So again, Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kroll. And thank you for your work on this. I know that there was a lot of provisos in here, and a lot of that does stem from y'all paying a lot of attention to this site. It's very important. My first term, we worked very hard to make sure that there were trees and pedestrian walkways in this very large mall, and also to outdoor mall, right? And also to allow for the General de Gaulle overlay. They have a separate overlay that really ensures, enough green space, setbacks, signage restrictions, and that's to keep General de Gaulle looking beautiful, right? There's a reason why it doesn't look like Manhattan, right? And so we want to make sure that that still stays desirable. And so I just want to thank you for that. I also want to thank the developers for this and for Chick-fil-A. As you heard, this is to allow a conditional use to permit a fast food restaurant with drive-through facilities in a C3 heavy commercial district, an SC suburban corridor use restriction overlay district. This applicant is proposing the modification of an existing multi-tenant shopping center, the Algiers Plaza Shopping Center, located at the intersection of General de Gaulle and Holiday Drive in Algiers. The modifications will include the partial demolition of an existing multi-unit retail structure, which will be substantially reduced in footprint, and the new construction of a Chick-fil-A fast food restaurant with drive-through capability. This restaurant will be centered in the Algiers Plaza shopping mall, with the hope that this development will also drive additional traffic to the existing retail stores that surround it. CPC recommended approval to this application subject to 2 waivers and 11 provisos that are only applicable to this specific site. I've added in 3 additional waivers and 2 amendments to provisos number 2 and number 4, which reflect these waivers. The first waiver will allow 4 wall signs, 1 on each side of the new building, so it will be visible from behind where we have existing retail. The second allows the primary orientation of the building to be towards Algiers Plaza rather than General de Gaulle. And the third waives the front landscape yard provision, as this is impractical for the particular location. However, I've secured the guarantee of the applicant that they will work to improve landscaping in the immediate area, and including partnering with local organizations for tree plantings around that mall area. I would also like to note that we're excited about this developer, and we're excited that they chose Algiers as the first location for a Chick-fil-A. And I see Councilmember Nguyen, we're hoping that we get one out there in the east, which would be fantastic.
Exactly. But congratulations to you and to your district.
Thank you so much. So we'll work together to make that a reality.
Yes.
If there is there any public comment?
Yes, Councilmember. We have one. It is from Avery Foray, noting that she is a paid representative. Thank you, council members, for considering this conditional use, which will allow for one of the first Chick-fil-A restaurants in Orleans Parish in the Algiers Plaza Center of General de Gaulle. We want to send a huge thank you to Councilmember Gissison Palmer for her leadership and support, and also the district staff for their work on this conditional use. Finally, thank you to the Algiers Economic Development Foundation for their support and enthusiasm for this new restaurant. That's the only comment.
Excellent. And with all these bike lanes everywhere in Algiers, people will be able to bike in a healthy way to go get some good food. So thank you all again. And with that, Miss Laura, can we have a vote, please?
I have a question real quick.
Okay, shoot.
Does that mean that you'll be buying lunch?
Absolutely. As soon as it
That's
opens.
like a great idea, Helena.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, perfect. Sorry, Miss Laura, you were starting roll call.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. We're now on page 24. Zoning docket 1621 has been deferred to April 22nd. We're on page 25, a legislative grouping. Zoning docket 2121, Kenneth C. Jackson, Melanie A. Pania, Dominique Guzman, and James Spears, requesting a conditional use to permit a hotel with live entertainment, secondary use, in an HUB1 Historic Urban Neighborhood Business District, the LAS LaSalle Street Overlay District, and an enhancement corridor design overlay district on Square 333, lots 2 and 3 in the 4th Municipal District, bounded by LaSalle Street, Washington Avenue, 6th Street, and South Liberty Street. Municipal addresses 2836 through 2842 LaSalle Street. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval, subject to 1 waiver and 10 provisos. We have motion M21-130 by Councilmember Banks. Motion approving the City Planning Commission's recommendation, approving the conditional use subject to 1 waiver and 10 provisos in the CPC report with the addition of one proviso for a total of one waiver and 11 provisos.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think, Stephen, you have a presentation.
Yes, this is a conditional use application that is to allow the historic Dewdrop Inn on LaSalle Street in Central City to be returned to use. Of course, it was a historic use that operated for decades, but the property is now vacant. When the new zoning ordinance went into effect in 2015, an overlay was established really precisely for this purpose to allow the reestablishment of this portion of LaSalle as an entertainment and cultural venue. And to do so, it provides the opportunity for both hotels and entertainment venues, which is what this is. So this is totally in keeping and really accomplishes the purpose of the overlay district. It restores a historically significant site and will help restore commerce along LaSalle Street. And so the Planning Commission is really effusively in support of it. Planning Commission recommends approval with one waiver to allow historically appropriate signage as deemed appropriate by the State Historic Preservation Office, as well as 10 provisos that relate to standard zoning requirements.
Stephen, thank you. I'll move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joseph. I have been here for, I guess, going on 3.5 years, and I have never heard Stephen describe the Commission's report as being effusively in support. So I just want to join in my exuberance in supporting this. The Dewdrop Inn is a historical facility that allowed for, if you were somebody in the music industry, when you toured on this Chitlin circuit, the Dewdrop Inn was a part of that. And B.B. King and Ray Charles, and there's way too many for me to name, all entered those doors and performed there. This is a exciting opportunity to put this back into commerce, and it has been vacant. Jared, you need to mute. It needs to, putting this back into commerce, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It adds to the musical legacy of this wonderfully musical city that we have, and I am extremely excited about this. So, colleagues, I would ask you all to join in me in supporting this. We will continue to work with neighbors to make sure that their voices are heard. This will be truly an asset and not a problem, and I'm very, very excited. So with that, I don't know if we have any public comment, Ms. Johnson?
No, sir.
Do we?
No, sir.
Okay. So with that, colleagues, I would ask you to please join me in supporting this. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gisselson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. On page 26, all matters. Zoning docket 2221 has been deferred to April 22nd. Zoning docket 2321 has been deferred to April 22nd. On top of page 27, zoning docket 2421 has been deferred to April 22nd. Legislative grouping design review 1221 by Williams Architects, requesting a demolition of an existing car wash structure located in the Central Business District as required by Section 26-2 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances on Square 255, Lot 15A, in the First Municipal District, bounded by Baron Street, Callio Street, Dryad Street, and Howard Avenue. Municipal addresses 1019 through 25 Baron Street. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval. We have motion M21-129 by Councilmember Banks. Motion approving the city planning recommendation on design review 1221 for property located at 1019 through 25 Baron Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Stephen?
Thank you, Council Member. This is a demolition request for a portion of a car rental facility on Barone in the edge of the CBD. The city code requires the city planning commission to weigh in on demolitions in the CBD that are outside of local historic districts, just to provide some level of demolition protection. In this case, the structure is really just a carport, so no historical significance, no architectural significance, and it is to be replaced with a newer, more contemporary version that better meets the needs of Enterprise Rental Car, which is the tenant of the site. So this comes to you with an approval recommendation from the planning.
Thank you, Stephen. I move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Nguyen. Folks that actually join me in this, as Stephen stated, this has no historical or architectural value. It is a car wash that actually sits behind the building. You barely can see it, any portion of it, from the street. So this one is a pretty easy one. They want to upgrade their car washing facility and incorporate new COVID stuff in it to make the cars more safer. So they need to take this one down. So please join me in allowing them to tear this down. So with that, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. On top of page 28, ordinance calendar number 32,930 has been deferred to June the 3rd. On page 29, all matters, the legislative grouping, ordinance calendar number 33018 has been deferred to June the 3rd, and the amendment to the ordinance has been deferred to June the 3rd. On top of page 30, ordinance calendar number 33,183 has been deferred to June the 3rd. At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 33,263 by Councilmember Palmer by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a lease agreement with the successful bidder for at least the minimum price set by appraisal for a certain portion of ground, together with all buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the parish of Orleans, 5th Municipal District, Square 5, Part 9, or Lot A, as part of a subdivision of Arpents 14 and 15, as more fully shown on the attached surveys and site plans attached as Exhibit A to the lease agreement, formerly known as Turo Shakespeare Home, and which improvements bear the municipal address of 2621 Jeremiah Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70114, hereinafter the lease premises, to fix the terms and conditions of said lease agreement, to declare that such property to be leased is no longer needed for public purposes, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. I move for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Nguyen. Martha, you're here with Property Management. You want to discuss this project that we've been working on for quite a while?
Sure, and thank you for working on this project for so long. This is the Turo Shakespeare building, where we have an invitation to bid out, which closes tomorrow, and we're very excited. We've had a really good turnout. We've had 3 open houses during the bid process time, and we expect it to be redeveloped as an almshouse, renovation and adaptive reuse, with hopefully a tenant with the financial and technical expertise to use all of the funding that's out there and available for such a thing.
Great. Councilors, this is a wonderful historic building on General Meyer, right across the street from Delgado, adjacent to Berman Park. And I really believe that this is right for development. It could be used for historic tax credits. And it's a very important corridor. And we're really hoping that we're turning this piece of current blight back into commerce for the city. And so we're really excited. Martha, I really do appreciate all your work on this. This building's been vacant for quite a while now. And I think I'm really excited about the potential, and let's see who bids on this.
Thank
So
you.
are there any public comments or questions from the council members?
No public comments.
Okay, great. So with that, can we please vote?
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Gibson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 6 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance has been adopted. We're now on top of page 31. Ordinance calendar number 33,267 has been deferred to April 22nd. Ordinance calendar number 33,272 by Councilmember Nguyen by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the city of New Orleans and the Sankofa Community Development Corporation for a term greater than 1 year for the public purpose of completing and maintaining a green infrastructure project to be located on the following described property belonging to the city. A portion of ground measuring approximately 40 acres in the 3rd Municipal District, which ground is bounded by Florida Avenue, DeBrill Street, the Southern Railroad, and Tennessee Street, and which lies more or less between the curb of Florida Avenue right-of-way and the railroad right-of-way adjacent to square 1,443 through 1,459, as more fully detailed in the cooperative endeavor agreement attached hereto as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, this ordinance is to codify a CEA between the city and Sankofa Community Development Corporation to allow Sankofa the use of 40 acres of formerly blighted city right-of-way to turn the area into a wetland park and nature trail. I would like to thank Sankofa for their partnership and their work to transform this blighted property into an area that will benefit the public, beautify the area, and focus on stormwater management to reduce flooding in the lower 9 ward. The first project of its kind in our city. We hope this will serve as a model of transformation of unused publicly owned property into beneficial projects for our residents. Concern have risen from the community regarding the Bayou Benville wetlands overlook and whether or not access to this site will be restricted with the creation of this wetland park and nature trail. The boundaries of this CEA are Florida Avenue on the south side, DeBrill Street on the east, Tennessee Street on the west, and the Southern Railroad on the north side. Sankofa does not have an agreement regarding the wetlands overlook, and ultimately the railroad and the city will decide whether or not access will be restricted at this site. Following the CEA, Sankofa will go through the design and permitting processes for the project prior to commencement, ensuring that the project will fall within our city guidelines and will serve true public benefit. And if you have not had a chance to go by the wetland, it is open. It is absolutely gorgeous. I came by there 2 days ago, and you could actually take a walk and bike on that trail as well. So I ask for your support, and I'd like to move for approval.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yep.
Okay, first, Councilmember Nguyen, thank you so much for bringing this. This is a really an exciting project, and I'd like to add my name as a co-author, Madam Clerk, if you would. Sankofa has been just a tremendous partner in our greater efforts to bring environmental sustainability to our neighborhoods throughout New Orleans. And in fact, Sankofa, they launched this 2-acre pilot of green infrastructure back in 2017 in the lower 9. So I'm so delighted to see this expansion to a 40-acre green infrastructure project that will integrate things like walking trails, as you mentioned, Councilmember Nguyen, bioretention ponds to help with stormwater runoff. And I'm just excited to go in and see it and be part of it. Like, what a fantastic addition. So this 40-acre park is going to offer benefits to support the community along with economic development in the lower 9th Ward area of New Orleans. And I think that efforts such as these create real life positive impacts for our residents. Improving drainage and increasing water runoff storage capacity helps to mitigate personal and business property damage during extreme weather events. The inclusion of walking trails and planting of native vegetation, of course, also helps to create a better quality of life for everyone. So I just enthusiastically support this project, this partnership between the council and Sankofa, and just look forward to the implementation and look forward to being out there. Thanks,
Yes,
Councilmember Nguyen.
No, thank you so much. And just to add on to that, they are hosting Earth Day next Saturday, April the 17th. So, Madam Chair, bring nachos out there.
Oh, I will.
He would really enjoy it.
He would love it.
That's
Nacho will
right.
love it.
Council Vice President.
Actually,
Dion.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Councilmember Nguyen. I just want to add, just to commend Sankofa for everything they're doing for quality of life, health, and happiness for the people in the lower Ninth Ward, starting with their food pantry and now this activities for families. They are just doing great things for well-being for the people of the lower Ninth Ward, and I just want to commend them on all of the work, the sustained work over years that they are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Councilmember Brissette.
thank you, Councilmember Nguyen, and I too want to join in and add my name, please, as well. You know, as the council president and vice president have said, it's, you know, the green infrastructure, I believe that this city is on the cusp of doing great things and have been for the most recent years. When we talk about, you know, the job industry and what it means to people's livability and incorporating these new mechanisms on people's homes. You know, over in Gentile, the community adaptation program that NORA has, they reached a milestone of 100 homes. These stormwater management infrastructure mechanisms that people are incorporating. And so Sankofa, I applaud them leading their efforts and continue to encourage them and just, you know, keep moving forward. And we're right there behind you.
Appreciate it, sir. So it's been moved. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Brissette. Teresa, do we have public comment?
Yes, ma'am. We have 19. The first one is from Gaynell Brady. The lower Ninth Ward is in dire need of more recreational, environmental, and cultural educational programs. The area in question was an eyesore for the community. Overgrown trees, trash, and other chemical debris served as the backyard for our youth. Now more than ever, citizens, organizations, and city government have an opportunity to work together to solve two major problems in the lower Ninth Ward: blight and lack of opportunities for the youth. This project can also assist with flooding, giving property owners and descendants hope for the future. Jean Morris. As a lifelong resident of the lower Ninth Ward, I am in support of Sankofa's Community Development Corporation to assume the completion of upgrades and maintain green infrastructure in the 3rd Municipal District. The park grounds will provide a great space for the community to utilize. Dr. Marlon Ford. This union will provide values that no other ecosystem can. It will include natural water quality improvement, flood protection, shoreline erosion control, opportunities for recreation, and aesthetic appreciation and natural products. Terrence Taylor. I am excited to be moving forward with this agreement. As the treasurer of Sankofa's board and a believer in the mission, I believe that this project will invigorate the area. Sankofa has proven to be a good steward of land and resources in the lower Ninth Ward. The residents and the city of New Orleans deserve this. I 100% support the city of New Orleans and Sankofa's Community Development Corporation entering into a cooperative endeavor agreement to continue developing and maintaining a green infrastructure project located on the 40-acre tract of land along Florida Avenue. Tanya Harris Glassell. Sankofa CDC has been a tremendous benefit to the community since its inception. From the farmers market and the community farms to the food pantry, this organization, headed by the immensely talented Rashida Ferdinand, has led the charge for healthy access in the lower ninth with an emphasis on sustainability and community involvement. The Wetlands Park project represents another layer of Sankofa's innovative work. Like other Sankofa initiatives, it will revitalize a previously overgrown and underutilized area of the neighborhood and create a beautiful space where neighbors can be physically active while interacting with nature. The Wetlands Project also represents how residents of a community can foster change and growth in their own community spaces. I wholeheartedly support Sankofa's Wetland Project and encourage the council to do the same. Please cast your votes in support of Sankofa's Wetland Park. Molly Haggerty. I support the Green Infrastructure Project and cooperative endeavor with Sankofa proposed by Councilmember Nguyen. Christine D. Thomas. It is a joy and great privilege for me to ask that you give your vote and support to this outstanding collaborative project. Having served as a past board member, volunteer, and longtime friend of the Sankofa CDC, I am proud to say that my own experience and observation, the Wetland Park is a tremendous effort and so worthwhile, as it has already shown such great promise and the lasting impact of community, determination, and beauty. It is a responsible project. It is an honest project. It is sure to be a wonderful educational and recreational benefit to many children and families throughout our communities and to contribute in an outstanding and resilient way to the environmental health of the L9 area and beyond. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your commitment to our communities, and thank you for your service. Pamela Broom. It is with profound respect and pleasure that I extend this statement of support for the City of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Sankofa Community Development Corporation for a 1-year period to complete the green infrastructure installation at the Sankofa Wetland Park 40-acre site. This agreement would enable Sankofa to continue the incredible work of transforming the area into a neighborhood asset and local environmental treasure for generations to come. The extraordinary planning, design, and implementation of the 1-acre pilot is a clear demonstration of Sankofa CDC's capacity to administer the next phase development of the entire site. I am honored to serve as a community advisor to Sankofa. Vanessa Geringer. The continuation expansion of the Sankofa Wetland Park and Nature Trail would mean so much to the residents of Lower 9. Personally, being able to see wildlife in their natural habitat within walking distance of my home is pretty amazing. Indigenous plants that I never knew existed in our area was eye-opening. The peace and tranquility that the community enjoys, especially during this time of COVID-19, is a great stress reliever. Most importantly, the expansion would allow residents and visitors to be able to enjoy walking, jogging, canoeing, and other physical activities. Sankofa continues to be a driving force in the resilience of our community. We are appreciative and hopeful that Mayor Cantrell will sign off on this cooperative endeavor agreement to enable Sankofa and the community to move forward with this worthwhile and much needed project. Heather Sasperry. TREE staff members have had the opportunity to partner with the Sankofa Wetland Park team to provide outdoor environmental education support. We have seen the major improvements that they have coordinated, implemented, and maintained over the past year and a half to the park. Their efforts are impressive, along with the help of volunteers who have also coordinated and maintained relationships. We have operated a successful nonprofit organization for 26 years. With this experience under our belts and with the work we have seen thus far from Sankofa, we strongly support the City of New Orleans establishing a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Sankofa Community Development Corporation. Carolyn Ziegler. I am in full support of this proposal and believe the work Sankofa is doing is invaluable to the community of New Orleans. Wendy Reiner. I am on the board of directors, the Native Plant Initiative of Greater New Orleans, and as such, I've participated in several volunteer events at Sankofa Wetland Park. It is a very well-run and very much needed green spot in the 9th Ward. It is home not only to resident bird species, but also hosts a wide variety of migratory bird species. And birds are a good indicator of the health of an ecosystem. Furthermore, Sankofa offers environmental education opportunities that are greatly needed in the community. Study after study document that green space and the community's ownership of green space helps student achievement, and it helps deter crime. I know that school children prior to COVID have participated in school activities there, helping increase awareness not only of Louisiana's unique natural heritage, but also of the possibilities of STEM-related careers. Finally, Sankofa also helps with flood abatement, which is vital. One parcel of land can do all of these things and more. Sankofa is a green infrastructure project that I and the rest of the NPL board are 100% behind. Wendy Reiner, member, Native Plant Initiative of Greater New Orleans Board of Directors. Marcia St. Martin. I support the authorization for the City of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and Sankofa Community Development Corporation for the public purpose of completing and maintaining a green infrastructure project. The creation of green infrastructure projects in low-income and disadvantaged neighborhoods is important. The Sankofa project will provide social, economic, and environmental benefits to the community. Traditional stormwater management infrastructure in New Orleans is below ground construction, while a significant portion of green infrastructure projects is visible at the ground level. Creation of the Green Infrastructure Project will create an exciting visual educational tool to help our community in changing our mindset and emphasis from immediately evacuating every drop of rainwater that falls to capturing rainwater runoff to help reduce subsidence and improve the quality of water pumped into Lake Pontchartrain. I request that you vote to approve this cooperative endeavor agreement. Your support will say yes to improving water quality, help to revitalizing the neighborhood, reducing flood risk, providing economic, recreational, and educational opportunities for this community. Thank you. Julia Lang. I support the project between the city and Sankofa to expand the green infrastructure project. Mayu Takita. I am writing in support of the ordinance. As a resident of New Orleans, I have volunteered with Sankofa CDC, and they are an incredible community-led group that is leading the way to make the lives of residents in the lower 9th Ward the best it can be. The firm I work at, Sakura Robinson, has been in touch with Sankofa about the wetland park since 2018, and we have seen the incredible work that they have done with the park area they have transformed. Sankofa has provided educational and leadership programming at the site, mitigated flooding through the creation of a bioretention pond, hosted countless volunteering opportunities, and they're creating a space where people can safely mingle and exercise. A CEA to allow Sankofa to complete the green infrastructure project to the rest of the 40 acres would only multiply these benefits. The park would also create significant economic benefits, including benefits generated from on-site activities, as well as off-site neighborhood revitalization activities. I strongly support the ordinance for these reasons. Thank you for your time. Alexandra Miller. I am writing in support of the ordinance. As a resident of New Orleans, I have volunteered with Sankofa CDC, and they are an incredible community-led group that is leading the way to make the lives of residents in the lower 9th Ward the best it can be. This is actually an entire repeat of the previous comment that I just read, and that was submitted by Alexandra Miller. Deborah Campbell. A community voice supports the Sankofa initiative at the Wetlands Park as a wonderful asset for the city of New Orleans. As the recent heat maps illustrated, this section of the lower 9th Ward will retain its nice cooler status while the rest of the city bakes under changes in the climate. We love the Wetlands Park as a destination for all, and especially the underserved residents of the 9th Ward. It is located in an area that is ripe for redevelopment of affordable housing, and this asset will help developers and others choose to build housing there. Another significant win for the area. As New Orleans communities is now wider areas see the formation and millions spent on parks in Algiers, Lafitte Greenway, Crescent Park, and others, we champion spending funds and dedicating city properties to neighborhoods that have not had their fair share of parks, such as the 9th Ward. This is a true gift to all of us, and we thank everyone for their support. Monique Harden. The Deep South Center for Environmental Justice supports calendar number 33,272. This measure supports the hard work of the Sankofa Community Development Corporation to develop the Sankofa Wetland Park in the Lower Ninth Ward as a multi-purpose green space for community health, wellness, recreation, and flood hazard mitigation. We appreciate the leadership and vision of Sankofa CDC Executive Director Rashida Ferdinand. We thank Councilmember Cindy Nguyen for her support. And the last comment is from Anthony Burrell. On behalf of New Harmony High School, I, Anthony Burrell, am communicating my support of the New Orleans Giving Sankofa Community Development Corporation's management and development in the Lower Ninth Ward for the next 20 years. New Harmony is a public open enrollment high school that prepares students for graduation, college career, and beyond through the lens of coastal restoration and preservation. Our students are helping create a sustainable New Orleans and Louisiana through project and problem-based learning, utilizing community members as mentors for students to experience relevant work-based learning experiences. New Harmony's high school career exploration and community engagement program is a pillar of our students' academic experience. The program offers students an opportunity to build relationships with people and organizations in our community in order to gain exposure to careers across various sectors. Through this explorative process, students gain knowledge and develop skills that are essential for a fruitful, healthy, and successful life. Sankofa CDC has been a vital partner in our CECE program by facilitating hands-on community service opportunities, service learning projects, and internships at the Wetland Park Development Site. This partnership has enabled our students to further our mission to create a more sustainable New Orleans and Louisiana while building relationships with mentors. Thank you. Those are the end of the comments on this item.
Thank you, Teresa. And I just want to thank those that submitted public comment in support of the CEA for Sankofa. Councilmember Palmer?
I'm sorry, do you mind, Councilmember Nguyen? I just want to say hello to my friend, Miss Rashida, and tell her how proud I am of her and doing this and staying so committed. I know it's so hard to go through a CEA with the city, and our legal process is also long and unwieldy. But you know, there are very few people out there that have that strength of character to keep fighting. And she's been doing this since Katrina, since even before Katrina. And I dearly miss the days of working with her in the Lower Nine. And she was so committed then when there were no food options, there was no healthy living. And that she kept the fight, and to have this dream and to make it a reality. I'm just so very proud of her and the work that she's doing down there. And Rashida, I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to need your help with Brechtel Park one day to get some of our people organized out there and to learn from you and all of your wonderful volunteers. So thank you again for everything you do and for keeping the faith down there.
Thank you, Councilmember Palmer. And again, I just want to echo, I've been very fortunate to have Rashida and Sankofa as our partner in the Low Nine. And I remember going to the wetland when I first got into office. So you guys know that I am a city girl. I'm not a wetland girl. And so I was like, OMG, it's like, is this overwhelming, right? And so of course, years later, went by there 2 days ago. And again, I am still a city girl, but just able to walk on the trail and enjoy the environment. It was just very smoothing and relaxing. And so you guys, if I can do it and enjoy nature, you guys can. You guys got to give nature an opportunity. And Sankofa does amazing work. So again, echo everybody. Thank you, Rashida, Sankofa, for your partnership. So there's no other comment. It's been moved in second. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call?
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette?
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion?
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno?
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer?
Yay.
Councilmember Banks?
Yay.
Councilmember Druso?
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance has been adopted. On page 32, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 33,273 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. Ordinance calendar number 33,274 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. On top of page 33, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 33,275 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. Ordinance calendar number 33,276 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. On page 34, all matters, ordinance calendar number 33,277 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. Ordinance calendar number 33,278 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. On page 35, all matters, ordinance calendar number 33,279 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. Ordinance calendar number 33,280 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. On page 36, ordinance calendar number 33,281 has been deferred to April 22nd and referred to the Budget Committee. At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 33,282 has been deferred to April 22nd. On top of page 37, ordinance calendar number 33,283 by Councilmember Banks by request, an ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the city of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana Office of Facility Planning and Control relative to allowing and facilitating and rehabilitation of the old New Orleans VA building as more fully detailed in the cooperative endeavor agreement attached here to as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Banks,
Yes, ma'am, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry.
page 37.
Yes, ma'am. This is the VA restoration, and I think we've got, I want to move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. What this is, guys, is the CEA with the state for $10 million to renovate the VA building. And it will upgrade life safety, environmental remediation, and strategic interior demolition. We are currently using it for the Homeless Veteran Support Program, the Low Barrier Homeless Shelter, the city's National Disaster Resilience Team, NOPD Secondary Employment Office, and a temporary location for the courts that'll begin this summer. So this is a good thing. If you've got any technical questions, I've got Joe Threat here to answer any technical questions, but if there are none, I would ask you to support this. And Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
All right, so with that, if you would please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Hey,
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance has been adopted. We're now on top of page 38, a legislative grouping, motion line over M2190 by Councilmember Moreno. A motion to amend the New Orleans City Council's rules to add Rule 55 regarding the City Council's vehicle policy. Amendment to motion line over M2190 by Councilmember Moreno. Amending the motion as follows. Number 1, in Exhibit 1, on the second line of the 4th paragraph in Section C, replace the words C Section M with C Section K. Number 2, in Exhibit A, following after the 4th bullet point in Section J, insert the following as the 5th bullet point. Any event resulting in immediate or automatic termination of driving privileges under Section C. Number 3, in Exhibit A, at the end of the second line in Section I, insert the following. In the event of an accident, the operator of a council vehicle shall call 911 to request the dispatch of a police officer, and unless otherwise advised, remain at the scene of the accident until police arrive and complete a report. Number 4, in Exhibit A, replace the second paragraph in Section K with the following. The foregoing indemnity obligation shall not apply to liability incurred as a result of intentional. willful, or wanton misconduct, from conduct that would result in the immediate termination of driving privileges, or from liability incurred as a result of the conduct that exceeds the allowable incidental personal use set forth in Section D.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. On the amendments, what we're doing here is really just adding some clearer and even more stronger language to some of these sections, just to make sure that we've got the strongest policy possible. So with that, I'd like to move to adopt the amendments. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second.
I think that was Councilmember Palmer with the second. Madam Clerk.
Yes. Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the amendment has been adopted.
Thank you,
Now-
Madam Clerk. Okay, now on the motion as amended, let me make a quick comment. So the council vehicle privilege is just that. It is a privilege. The public deserves to know that we have clear rules for this privilege and that council vehicles are used for their intended purposes, official business. And that's why we are codifying today rules that align us with the standards set across city government by successive CAOs and administrations. These standards set forth the proper and safe use of the vehicles, who is authorized to use the vehicles, reasons the privilege of the vehicle use may be revoked, and conduct within the vehicles themselves. So with that, Teresa, is there any public comment?
Councilmember.
No.
Okay, great. So I will make a motion to adopt. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember Wynn,
I'm sorry, yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the motion as amended is adopted. We're now on page 39, a legislative grouping. The substitute resolution line over R2192 has been withdrawn.
Ordered.
We have substitute resolution number R2192 by council members Gissison, Palmer, and Wynn. A resolution to support international action to address disproportionate health outcomes in communities of color and hereby take action to preserve our local environment and economy by opposing the construction of the Sunshine Project and any petrochemical plant that significantly adds to the existing toxic emissions in Cancer Alley.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laura. I move for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Thank you so much. Council members, this resolution expresses opposition to the proposed Sunshine Project, a petrochemical complex owned by Formosa Plastics, affiliate in St. James Parish. Last August, and there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. Last August, a ship called the CMA Bianca spilled billions of plastic pellets called nurdles into the Mississippi River. My office began receiving calls and photographs from constituents on both sides of the river that found huge deposits of these in the Batcher and asking who is responsible for the cleanup. My staff contacted numerous agencies, including the port, the Coast Guard, and DEQ. All of them said the same thing, not my responsibility. And that right there is the problem. When it comes to protecting our environment, to keeping our sources of drinking water and seafood safe and clean, I believe it is all of our responsibilities to speak up and act. My concern over the Formosa plan is simple. To my knowledge, there's been no effort on behalf of state or federal agencies to address the hole in these regulations, nor has there been any serious penalty levied. Instead, these agencies seem perfectly content to let volunteers with 5-gallon buckets do the impossible task of cleaning up. Now there will be yet another chemical plant in an area that the EPA has already determined has cancer-causing emissions well in excess of safe limits. Formosa Plastics Plant in Point Comfort, Texas, has resulted in the largest Clean Water Act citizen suit settlement in U.S. history for polluting waterways. During this case, U.S. District Judge Kenneth Hoyt called Formosa, quote, a serial offender due to their history of violating regulations at other sites. They were also fined the largest fine of any plastics company in the United States of $50 million. Simply put, what happens upstream is going to reach us down here. The plant might be situated in St. James, but the potential environmental effects have the potential to spread over a much larger area. Our drinking water, as we all know, comes out of the Mississippi River. In addition to that, where there also this plant is going to be dumping along the St. James Canal is going to go directly into an estuary where all of our catfish and the majority of our seafood come from. And folks, this is also about a whole nother industry. Over 85,000 people in this region are employed by the hospitality industry, directly linked to our seafood and our food culture. It is for this reason that a group of stakeholders, including retired General Russell Honore, Dickie Brennan, many other restaurants, Rise, St. James, as well as thousands and thousands of Louisianians have spoke out against this plan. Formosa will claim that they intend to meet all state and federal regulations, but as their past behavior and recent events have shown, that is clearly not good enough standard if we are to have and leave a sustainable future for generations to come after us. I also believe that the state is culpable for not addressing the cleanup of these plastic pellets. And no one has reached out to our office yet, even to this day. They wanted us not to do the resolution. They wanted us to change the resolution, which we did. We listed on both sides, but they have still not said that there are loopholes that they're willing to address. And I'm very discouraged by that, quite frankly. And you know, I also want to state just a little bit off my comments is that all of us in a way are culpable because of our over-reliance on plastics. And that is something that we all need to address and deal with internally and in our households and even within our celebrations. This past Mardi Gras was very different, but we also weren't throwing millions of pounds of plastic beads into our streets. And we still had a Mardi Gras that was our very own. And I think we need to start really reassessing how we deal with our environment and how we pollute it. I want to applaud this administration. It was on the front page of the paper over the weekend, really trying to address Gordon Plaza and that cleanup. This isn't just our city banging on another parish. All of us are interrelated and interconnected, and it's very symbolic of how our waterways are all interconnected. And we do need to start asking ourselves these hard questions. But right now we have processes in place that are not protecting us. They're not protecting our children. They're not protecting our waterways, and they have a very high probability of negatively impacting future generations. And that's just not acceptable. Councilmember Nguyen, did you want to make a comment?
Yes. So colleagues, you know, when this project first came to my attention, the name Formosa sounds very familiar to me. Now it's known as the 2016 Vietnam marine life disaster, the most serious environmental disaster Vietnam has ever faced. My family in Vietnam was affected by the harmful actions of this company and gaslighted for months after their involvement. We cannot allow the promise of economic development negatively affect the livelihood of our residents. An event similar to the 1998 Cambodian hazardous dumping, the 2014 Illinois plant explosion, the 2016 Vietnam water pollution, or the 2019 Texas plastic pollution, all caused by Formosa, could change the landscape of the Louisiana seafood and maritime industries, negatively affecting the long-term health of Louisiana residents and disrupt this tourism industry that many New Orleans rely on for their livelihood for decades to come. We appreciate the partnership of St. James officials and Parish President Peter Dufresne to hold Formosa and other industrial businesses along the Mississippi River accountable. And we will continue to work with DEQ and EPA to ensure that if this project goes forward, compliance is ensured and any violation are addressed with swift action and remediation. As Councilmember Palmer indicated, we have been asked multiple times to withdraw this resolution. However, we cannot stand silent on an issue of this magnitude that may negatively impact citizens of the greater New Orleans region for generations to come. So I do ask that you support the resolution that we set forth. Thank you very much, Councilor Palmer, for working with our office on this issue.
Thank you, Councilmember Nguyen. Do any council members have a comment?
Quick comment, Councilmember Palmer, and thank you to both you and Councilmember Nguyen for bringing this. You know, there should be no expansion of the petrochemical industry along Cancer Alley. And I'll just say this: I think what's interesting is as we listen to all sides, it's kind of like, you know, it's on one side it's all about health and environment, and then on the other side it's all about jobs, right? But we can achieve all of those things. We can protect our environment. We can ensure that people's health is prioritized, and we can also create jobs. But we shouldn't be so reliant on just the petrochemical industry to create all the jobs, in particular in this area. You know, I mean, it's time to look at other industries. Other states are certainly doing that. They're helping new and emerging businesses grow and prosper. And that's what we should be doing as well in Louisiana. And I really think that should be the focus. So while, you know, this particular plant is not in New Orleans, it certainly has impacts in our region. So I appreciate you bringing this forward. And of course, I will be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Moreno. Councilmember Banks?
Thank you. I too want to, first of all, say that I did have conversations. I don't typically vote on anything without doing the research to figure out which is the better path to take. And I did a lot of reading and had a bunch of conversations. I most recently spoke with the president of St. James Parish, and I fully appreciate the economic argument. I get the fact that we need jobs, and I get the fact that government depends on tax revenue to survive. But I also get the fact that no economic development justifies jeopardizing human life. And for the number of jobs that we would create, when you put that in comparison to the number of lives that could be negatively impacted, for me, that argument just doesn't hold any weight. And while I certainly am not interested in having layoffs of teachers or police officers or anybody else in St. James Parish, I am certainly not advocating that. I am advocating, though, that we not jeopardize the health and welfare of people all along the river with putting something that could be quite detrimental to all of us. So with that, I join you in support of this, and will continue to stand up for the environmental rights of folks who have long been ignored. And these kinds of developments have oftentimes been put in places where the folks didn't really have any voice. And I remember just right here in New Orleans, Haywood Thompson, back in the middle of Gertown, was a horrible thing for a very, very long time. And it certainly ended up in Gertown for a reason, because those folks didn't have the wherewithal to fight it until many, many, many years after it had been there. And I don't think we need to be making those kinds of mistakes continuously. So with that, I join you in supporting this, but also look forward to trying to find ways that we can employ all of our people in an environmentally safe way. I just don't think that this plant is the way to do that. So with that, thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Councilmember Nguyen and Councilmember Palmer, for authoring this. And please add my name, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Brossette?
Thank you, Councilmember Palmer and Councilmember Nguyen. Just to add a few of my thoughts, you know, you could be pro-business and you could be pro-environmental justice. You know, I had the pleasure and privilege having served in the legislature of bringing a bill to have to have health air monitors at the perimeter of the plants that we are speaking of, as we talk about Cancer Alley and the effects that it's have on the African American population in the river parishes throughout our state, and just the historical injustices that it has taken place throughout the years and decades. You know, I'm friendly towards the port. I believe that I know that we all are. My family's history. My grandmother and my grandfather are buried along River Road in Donaldsonville in St. James. And so I know from traveling to see my great aunts and family, the struggles of individuals who didn't have the transportation to get to a job and have the choice of picking a better job, a healthier job, but raised their families and supported their families by working in those plants along the levee and along the river. Whether they have received the permits, this plant, I do think that the state, we have to do a better job in having healthier conditions for our workers, for the workplace. And so this is calling the attention to that. Yes, I want there to be jobs for individuals, and I believe in parish sovereignty. I respect the elected officials over in St. James Parish, but we also have to call attention to these to the problems that exist, and it's not existed in just one parish. It exists throughout Louisiana, throughout the Mississippi River corridor, throughout our coast. And so I'm going to vote in support. I am pro-jobs, and I just want to thank my colleagues for bringing it forth.
Thank you, Councilmember Brossette. With that, do we have any public comment?
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember, we have well over 100.
Shall we give 30 minutes, council members, for public comment instead of going through? All right, Teresa, could we do 30 minutes of public comment, please?
Yes, ma'am. Executive Council, would you mind letting me know when the 30 minutes is up? Okay. The first one is from Dr. Elizabeth Marciano. Why do petrochemical companies get tax abatements / subsidies and a pass on any ecological damage they create? Not only do these companies give little tax money to communities, they are allowed to pollute said communities for free. Why should communities want a business that gives them no tax money and also freely pollutes drinking water and food resources and cause disease? Louisiana needs to smarten up and either tell these companies they are not wanted or tax the ever-loving crap out of them. We don't need more companies like Formosa in Louisiana to make money for the state. We need to tax the ones we have. Until correct taxation occurs, no Formosa plant. No more petrochemical plants. If companies want these resources so badly, they can pay for them. No more Formosa plant. No more nurdle spills. Anne Marie Dewey, people's health and safety before corporations. Jamie Spain Sattler, Cancer Alley is a disgrace and an embarrassment to the state of Louisiana. Let's do our part in helping to stop the spread of toxic chemicals by voting in support of Resolution 92 and telling Formosa that we don't want them here. Please vote in support of environmental justice today. Claire Geeson. We need to protect our restaurant industry, an important part of New Orleans' economy. These restaurants rely on and advertise fresh local seafood. Formosa Plastics would dump storm runoff and plastic pellets into the Mississippi River, our main drinking source, and into the St. James Canal, which empties into Lac des Amands, a major source of catfish, crab, shrimp, and other seafood in New Orleans and across the state. As you can see, this will have devastating impacts on the New Orleans restaurant industry. Tim Spa Spatler. Please support 37, which exposes the problematic expansion of Formosa. William Maloney. Louisiana residents, especially those that live nearby the numerous petrochemical plants in the region, have long suffered the deleterious effects of poisonous and sometimes deadly emissions, some leaked by accident, but many emitted in the normal process of these plants. We must stop poisoning our environment and our citizens. Additionally, human civilization is facing the existential crisis of climate change. Large petrochemical infrastructure is only financially available if it remains operational for decades. A recent study showed that the Formosa plant is not financially viable. If we are to address climate change, we must stop permitting large infrastructure projects that are antithetical to that effort. Brick Lagarde. I oppose any and all chemical facilities in close proximity to the Mississippi River and to any of our communities and fragile ecosystems in Louisiana. Pippin Frisbee. Please stop the Formosa chemical plant. I do not trust that they have the public safety at heart. I live downriver and drink from the Mississippi, and they have been deceptive throughout their entire process. Thank you for listening. Lawrence Koppel. No to Formosa. Sarah Holt. Please do all you can to reject the Formosa Plastics plant. Another facility of this kind would only add to the environmental challenges in air pollution and water contamination for our great Mississippi River, not to mention a further insult of cultural racism to the people of the surrounding parish. It's beyond time to stand up for a better, cleaner, healthier future for the local community and the state and our country and our world. Elizabeth Parmenter, past R92. Haley Feinart. Why are we continuing to allow corporations with no vested interest in the health of our communities and coastal ecosystems to use our state as their personal gutter? Allowing Formosa Plastics to proceed with building a manufacturing facility would be disastrous to the people, animal, plants, and precious natural resources that are already threatened and struggling to survive. As the lowest ranking state in terms of environmental, economic, and educational reform, we can and must only go up from here, not be dragged further down by a notoriously toxic and corrupt corporation. We have to do better. Ivana Dillis. Keep plastic and toxic chemical pollution out of Louisiana. Melissa Van Diver. Please oppose the construction of Formosa Plastics plant. The Irish Channel has been dealing with awful stenches and air quality that almost chokes you sometimes. I know several people experiencing headaches. The last thing I want to see is more industry causing problems along the river. The Louisiana DEQ is ineffective in holding industry accountable for breaking environmental regulations, and I am not interested in inviting more opportunities for them to fail us. Plus, I think the people of St. James, they've been through enough. Akila Tony. I write this comment to urge appointed council members to take action in support of R2192. With such a horribly ironic name, the Sunshine Project proposes a major threat to the safety and future of New Orleans. From both sides of the river, from the New Orleans East to St. James Parish, Black residents and residents of color have been experiencing environmental racism and neglect from corporations and the city of New Orleans overall. Let me be here to say that the greed, environmental neglect, and carelessness will swallow the city of New Orleans before any hurricane has the opportunity to do so. I ask, do you know what it's like to be young and mourn a living city that will not be here in the next 60 years? The poisoning of our major waterways will be the engraving on the tombstone of New Orleans. These waterways keep us alive with its drinking water, wildlife, and jobs. If R2192 is not passed, Louisiana will suffer. The Black, Indigenous, and POC populations of New Orleans who keep this city alive will suffer. As a resident of the East living in a food desert, Entergy power plant adjacent, and smog induced by I-10 area, I urge appointed council members to prevent yet another environmental tragedy. No one will make money if this city is dead. We cannot eat or drink Formosa Plastics, nor will the Sunshine Project be here to serve the residents of the city, only their profits. I urge you to protect the environment of New Orleans like your life depends on it, because it does. All our lives depend on this land. Hannah Pico, pass R92. Gretchen Darley, I am speaking out against Formosa Plastics. We don't need to keep polluting our rivers and lands. I feel at this point, everyone knows that in their hearts, and the only reason these things still happen is that greed has turned people's hearts black. We need our rivers to survive. We need our people to survive. No to Formosa. Jack Reno Sweeney. It is a distinct pleasure to be commenting on this resolution and to stand in solidarity with the residents of St. James Parish against Formosa Plastics, a callous, greedy, and truly evil corporation seeking to maximize profits directly and explicitly at the expense of life. Formosa Plastics represents an existential threat to all of us in Louisiana. Make no mistake, should this plant be constructed, our characteristic way of life will be permanently altered. At the least, we'll be getting our fish frozen from Walmart. Our restaurants from the Quarter to Holly Grove and all the way into the East won't be able to offer the world-class cuisine they've become known for. Our little corner of paradise will fade into the same shade of gray as so many once thriving, unique communities across this country, crushed, destroyed, and monetized in the name of corporate profit. Communities like those in St. James Parish, founded by those freed from enslavement after the Civil War, who stood strong in the face of Jim Crow and waves of lynching across the region, who pushed forward the civil rights movement, and who have persevered into the present era of environmental racism, would disappear completely. But I know the movement founded by people like Sharon Levine, Gail LaBeouf, Stephanie Cooper, Barbara Washington, and so many more can and will succeed. I've met some of the most amazing people in St. James. The future belongs to them. We as a city, as a state, as a people must ensure as much by doing all we can to stop Formosa Plastics. Erica Tecci. Stop Formosa. Protect our waterways, our drinking water, and our delicate seafood industry that our city and state is famously known for. Kristen Gilroy. I would like to thank Councilmember Palmer for fighting for us, our environment, and our seafood economy. I do not support Formosa Plastics. Emily Major, pass R92 and stop Formosa Plastics. Justin Vidito. By passing this resolution, you are taking a stand against the sickness of greed and putting the health and well-being of people over profits. Thank you for doing what is right by taking this step, bringing us closer to a Louisiana free from the cancerous tumor that is the hazardous petrochemical industry. Ellie Spiller. We cannot let this plastics company threaten our beautiful way of life in South Louisiana any further. Logan Roberts. Particularly in light of new data showing cancer clusters in the shadows of petrochemical plants, as well as groundwater overuse and pollution, it's critical that our leaders think long-term and stop polluting industry from continuing to poison our lands, resources, and people. Please pass this resolution. Peter Digray. Kudos to our City Council for standing for the health, life, and well-being of people and the earth by opposing Formosa. Formosa will double greenhouse gas emissions in St. James and release tons of toxic carcinogens. The earth is in a state of rapid decline, with CO2 hitting a new record of 420 ppm, and our citizens have been debilitated by toxins for far too long. It is time for a resounding no. Thank you. Benjamin Nugent Peters. I would like to commend the City Council for putting this resolution forward. I won't go into all the numerous reasons why it is important to oppose Formosa Plastics. Instead, I will just say this. The movement to oppose Formosa Plastics in St. James shows us what is best in democracy. It shows us what it looks like when citizens take the matter of their lives and livelihoods into their own hands. Every step of the way, the people of St. James have led by example and shown all of us what democracy looks like, and more importantly, what it feels like. It is not ideological in practice, it is pragmatic. A massive international cooperation with virtually endless funds and a great deal of power, excuse me, that was a corporation, with a great deal of power is attempting to dictate the terms of our lives and the people of St. James. And they are saying no. That is not how democracy works. We have looked into this issue. We are the agents of our own destiny. We demand the right to live in an area with clean air, clean water, and clean soil. And we say, Formosa, you are not welcome here. It has been anything but an easy fight, and it has taken an extraordinary amount of work, marching, attending meetings, holding meetings, going door to door, writing letters, marching again, talking to folks one-on-one, researching, building relationships, having difficult conversations, and much, much more. Again, see democracy. I trust the City Council recognize this and will pass Resolution 37 on Thursday, April 8th, ending the construction of 14 Formosa plastic plants in St. James Parish. Thank you. Bart Everson. I am against the proposed Formosa plastic plant. The world needs less plastic, not more. Plastic may have its role in certain limited applications, but the bulk of plastic being produced is single-use disposable plastics. It can't be truly recycled, and there are numerous negative consequences associated with its manufacture. The Formosa plant would have a carbon footprint 4 times the city of New Orleans. This madness must end. Virginia Richard. What happens to the Mississippi River affects all of us. Formosa Plastics is just another deadly company with a deadly plan. No amount of so-called, quote, economic development, end quote, which is really laughable considering the current and projected plastics market, can even begin to compensate for the damage that Formosa Plastics would do to our water, air, and soil. We are on the front lines of this climate crisis, and I refuse to be sacrificed. No to Formosa Plastics. Hannah Bainey, please pass Resolution 92. Robert Kime. It is time to take care of the people in the river parishes, where I have both friends and loved ones. Please do the right thing. Pass Resolution 92. Thank you. Dominique Renfrey. There's no way Formosa should be establishing a massive toxic plastic facilities in a historic Black community already overburdened with toxic pollution. Stop this project for everyone's benefit. Sarah Payton Weaver. I want Resolution 92 to pass. I have lived next to the levee 30 years and 234 blocks from the levee. Kate LaCour. As a citizen, homeowner, parent, educator, and voter, I strongly oppose Formosa. Virginia Lowry. All of us need to stand against Formosa Plastics, adding to our already serious issues with environmental pollution in Louisiana. Mega polluters like Formosa should not be given a chance to do more harm to our citizens and the environment. Evan Allison. This resolution poses to exacerbate the public health threats of an area already inundated with pollution and threaten the viability of our waterways. The parish doesn't want this plant, and the effects will have negative consequences for the community and the environment. Please say no to Formosa. Simon Cifuentes. I don't support this plant. I do support the stand of the Louisiana Bucket Brigade. Lillian Props. Tell NOLA Council to pass R92. Linda Gladney. We do not need a plastics plant in our region. Please protect the safety and health of our citizens. Amber Kaplan. Allowing Formosa Plastics to move forward is an environmental disaster waiting to happen. Our oceans and waterways are suffering from the amount of plastics in the water. This plant will only add to our pollution problem. Stop this project, please. Michael Tetchy. Stop Formosa from polluting our city and state more than it already is. They've already done irreversible damage in Texas and in Vietnam. Don't allow Louisiana to be next. Kaylee Wilkinson, please pass R92 to stop Formosa Plastics and its polluting of Lac d'Almans, which holds the drinking water and seafood that many of New Orleanians ingest. Andrea Amar, Formosa will bring even more pollution to our state. What use is a job that pays well when the environment around you is killing you with pollutants? Musa Eubanks, please vote for substitute resolution R2192. Environmental justice and climate action means opposing Formosa Plastics. Thank you. Vita Manuel, please vote for substitute resolution R2192. For our seafood industry, environmental justice, and climate action, please oppose Formosa Plastics. Rachel Gross, we already have enough pollution around here affecting us every day. We don't need any more, please. Anna Hybrick, I very much support this resolution. The pollution from 150 plus plants we already have in Cancer Alley is already killing us disproportionately, Black and brown folk. We do not need any more. Margaret Parsons, please pass Resolution 92. Please protect our land from toxic dumping and the expansion of an industry that created Cancer Alley. I support Resolution 92 because I believe in preserving this land for future generations. George Bond, the Formosa plant needs to be stopped. It is a health hazard for those living near it, and that hazard will flow south to us. The state only looks at the economic costs, and the health costs are high. Rebecca McLaughlin, we need the City Council to pass this resolution opposing the Formosa Plastics plant. Corporate polluters don't care about our communities as they continue to profit from destroying our waterways, leaving it to residents to clean up their mess. Stop Formosa Plastics. Hannah Chalu. Dear council members, my name is Hannah Chalu, and I am a resident of District D. I am writing in support of Resolution R2192 in opposition to the proposed Formosa Plastics plant just upriver in St. James, Louisiana. Though built upriver, Formosa will have a huge impact on New Orleans as it would dump storm runoff and plastic pellets into the Mississippi River, our main drinking source. Formosa Plastics will also emit 13.6 tons of greenhouse gases yearly, the equivalent of what 3.5 coal-fired plants emit annually, or almost 4 times the carbon footprint of the city of New Orleans, which is 3.6 million tons. As a resident of Southern Louisiana, we see the impacts of fossil fuels making our landscapes even more vulnerable to rising seas and stronger hurricanes. For our future and for the health of our neighbors upriver, it is imperative we block the proposed Formosa facility. Thank you for your time. Leo Ginavillo. Although I don't live near Council Alley, I'm active in the movement to end plastic pollution. Formosa must not be allowed to build what would be one of the largest plastics facilities in your area. They are an unethical company and will not care about the people of St. James. They will pollute your waterways and they will compromise commercial fishing. I urge the City Council to reject Formosa's plans and do everything possible to prevent this transgression against the people and environment of St. James Parish. Susan Sakash. Formosa Plastics would dump storm runoff and plastic pellets into the Mississippi River, our main drinking source, and into the St. James Canal, which empties into the Lac d'Almans, a major source of catfish, crab, shrimp, and other seafood in New Orleans and across the state. As the co-chair of the Food Business Development Working Group of FPAC, I know that our fishermen and restaurants are already suffering from COVID-related losses. This would be an added blow to our local food system. Jordan Burton. I fully support this resolution. Although Formosa plant would not be built in Orleans Parish, it will certainly affect us in indirect ways through the air, soil, groundwater, family ties, climate change on a larger scale, etc. To support such a project or any of its kind at this moment in time is kin to the definition of insanity, which is if something isn't working or you do it over and over again, expecting better, different results. Thank you. Breezy Levy. Keep the Formosa plant out of our city. Value lives and a clean environment. Serena Thompson. Thank you, council members Palmer and Wynn, for standing in solidarity with those who lead the fight for their own lives in St. James. It is monstrous that companies like Formosa are permitted to steal the health from the people in the river parishes. We cannot allow Formosa to build this mega polluting facility. I personally spent months cleaning plastic pellets off the beaches along the Mississippi River with hundreds of heartbroken but hardworking friends, neighbors, and strangers who knew we had to act quickly. Week after week, I watched children clean up industrial waste because the foreign company who dumped it refused to do anything. Formosa continues to rake in billions while our fragile ecosystem chokes on trash. It is up to us to fight for everything that enables a crime like this to happen, such as the lack of laws around plastic pollution that allow companies like Formosa to walk away from disasters like this with clean hands. We shouldn't be expected to sleep with the devil to bring jobs to Louisiana. Green infrastructure exists all over the world, and it is time for us to catch up. Every living thing in Louisiana deserves better. Sharon Levine. Dear City Council members of New Orleans, thank you so much for your concern about Formosa Plastics. If you look at the St. James Parish map of 1890, the Freetown settlement homes line up exactly where Freetown Lane is today, a few miles from my home. Our formerly enslaved great-great-great-grandparents founded Freetown in 1872, and our community has survived for 150 years. After all that we have survived and overcome, it is this Taiwanese plastic plant, one of the largest in the world, that threatens to destroy our Black community. Though our parish officials tout the jobs and tax benefits of Formosa, they fail to mention that it would destroy our community. We are never even mentioned. They simply do not see us despite months of engagement on our part. St. James Parish officials also failed to acknowledge the implications for our region as evidenced by Formosa's terrible track record around the world. The company destroyed fisheries in Vietnam. In 2019, paid the largest settlement in history of the Clean Water Act, $50 million, for relentless pollution of Texas waterways with plastic pellets. As Councilmember Palmer said at Monday's press conference, quote, "We really need to make sure that we protect ourselves. And also, can we please focus on industry and not just look at industry as a creation of jobs, but also the creation of a quality of life?" This, Formosa, is actually failing on that. It fails on it for our neighbors, and it impacts their quality of life. It can impact our quality of life, end quote. Thank you for your time. We relay our deep gratitude, Council members Palmer and Wynn. Please support Resolution 92. Sincerely, Sharon Levine, founder and director of Rise St. James. Nathan Lemoyne. The city of New Orleans must make a stand against the expansion of the deadly petrochemical industry in the Gulf South and Mississippi Delta. This industry has done great harm to the people and ecosystem of the entire region, and it must be stopped. The Sunshine Project, Formosa Plastics, and any other industry adding to the toxicity of the area must be stopped. The callous disregard of the disproportionate harm done to the vulnerable communities of color in the area is outrageous and must be acknowledged and action taken to redress that harm. A few more dollars in a few more pockets is not worth the death, disease, and environmental destruction caused by the oil, gas, and petrochemical industry in Cancer Alley. I mean, it's already called Cancer Alley. We're calling it Cancer Alley. The United Nations calls it Cancer Alley. And someone thinks it's a good idea to build more of these toxic, irresponsible death factories in the backyard of our most vulnerable populations and ecosystems. Enough is enough. I support Resolution 37B and call for even more action from the New Orleans City Council to oppose further expansion of the petrochemical industry and to hold that industry accountable for the harm they have already done. Scott Jennings. I am writing in support of Resolution 92. The operation of FG's proposed Sunshine Project would pose an unacceptable threat to the health of Louisiana residents and to the Louisiana seafood industry, even if the complex were to operate entirely within the bounds of existing environmental regulations. And given that FG and Formosa Plastics have demonstrated an inability to comply with regulations in the past, it is unlikely that they will do so going forward. More generally, in the future, Louisiana should not allow petrochemical companies to continue to enrich themselves at the expense of the state's other industries or the health of its residents. Rita Kovshun, support Resolution 92. Lenora Gobert. St. James Parish and everyone downriver from the parish would be negatively affected in many different ways from the siting of Formosa Plastics in St. James Parish. We cannot allow another chemical company to practice its racial injustice against the African-American communities of St. James, to pollute the waters our fishermen depend on, and to deny all of us downriver a healthy environment. I urge you to stand against Formosa. Laura Stewart. Please stop Formosa from building yet another source of poison for the residents of St. James Parish, surrounding areas, and points downstream of the Mississippi River. If you can't get on board with preventing this potential disaster for the good of the residents, please remember that New Orleans has put all its revenue eggs in the tourism basket, and it would become economic suicide to risk poisoning a primary source of fish for the restaurants and the markets. Julie Schwam Harris. I support this Council Resolution 92 to oppose the Formosa Plastics project in St. James Parish. Not only is it an example of environmental racism to add an additional toxic industry to that area, the project harms our entire region and state. Additionally, we want to wean our society off harmful plastics altogether in the future. Thank you to the sponsors of this resolution, Council Members Palmer and Nguyen, and all of you who will vote for this instrument. Maria Isabel Potts. Please pass R92 to prevent Formosa from spewing toxins into our waterways, fisheries, drinking water, and air. I support Palmer and Nguyen's resolution to stop the construction of Formosa. Ashley Moon Walker. Formosa Plastics threatens our seafood-based economy, tourism, our water supply, wildlife in our Gulf and wetlands, and most importantly, the health of nearby residents. We must #stop Formosa from building one of the largest plastic producing facilities on Earth in our backyard. Their environmental and human rights record is heinous. They have been polluting the Gulf in their plant in Texas, where they were just fined $500 million in 2019. Yet they have done nothing to curb the pollution. The judge in their case called them, quote, a bad actor and serial offender. We cannot let them build here. We can, we must, and together we will #stop Formosa Plastics.
That is 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
That 30 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Teresa, thank you so much. You did a beautiful job, as always. Councilmembers, I have a couple more pages of talking points, which I'm not going to bother y'all with. I think a lot of our public comments have said it all, but I do just want to add two more comments, one of which, it's just kind of shocking that in Cancer Alley already has over 150 existing either oil refineries, plastic plants, or chemical plants. We already have over 150. And you would think with 150 plants of one sort or another, we would be an incredibly rich state. So then why do we constantly rank 50th in all quality of life things? And still we don't have decent quality of life. Still we don't have decent jobs. And now we're considering expanding again. I don't think this is going to pull us out of the bottom 50 anytime soon. And I just also want to add, that entire term of environmental racism was coined in 1980. And we're seeing the effects of it more and more. President Biden even mentioned it specifically to this region in terms of it. And I think we see the effects of it. Our future generations will continue to see the effects of it. And we really have to ask ourselves who's living next to these plants and why there's so many within this particular region. So with that, if there are no more comments, I would like to call for a vote. Ms. Johnson?
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette?
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Gibson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Here, sorry, yay.
7 yeas, no nays. And the ordinance, the motion has been adopted. We're on top of page 40. Motion M21-120 has been withdrawn.
Ordered.
Motion M21-121 is deferred to April 22nd. We're now on page 42. We have resolution R21-126 by Councilmember Gibson Palmer, Banks, Nguyen, Moreno, Jeruso, Brissette, and Glapion. The council recognizes and applauds the tremendous efforts of Second Harvest Food Bank throughout the COVID-19 pandemic to keep its doors open and food flowing to those most in need, and stand ready to assist Second Harvest in any way necessary moving forward, including fundraising and volunteer support to ensure that its mission can continue while recovery from the pandemic is still underway.
Thank you so much. I move for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
You're on mute.
Councilmember, you went on mute.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Y'all, this resolution is really to recognize all the hard work and efforts of Second Harvest Louisiana, and it's really to thank them. I don't think any of us thought we would be here for a year, and I just didn't want the year to go by without publicly recognizing their great work. You know, from the very beginning, they have been partners across every single Councilman district, and I do want to take this moment to thank every single one of the council members. All of you have done really tremendous work in your districts, not with just food, but mass distributions, and all over the city. And it really was amazing to watch all of you to work. And a lot of that work wouldn't have been possible if we didn't have Second Harvest with us. You know, just even in my district, and I know these numbers are replicated all over the city, they were able to provide us with over 105,000 frozen meals, over 600,000 pounds of fresh produce and pantry items, and served more than 77,000 individuals from children to seniors. And so none of this, again, I just really wanted to thank them. I don't know if any of y'all would like to add some stories from your and personal words, but please feel free to say something.
So I just wanted to add in that, so Christian, we received buku of food items from Second Harvest. Okay, I don't have the number, but I know that it's been buku, and we're still working with Second Harvest. We have a mass food drive tomorrow. We've been doing it every Friday since February. So again, I just wanted to echo my appreciation to Second Harvest and all of their employees for working with us during hot weather, during cold weather, during rainy weather. I remember just a year ago when it was extremely sweaty and hot during this time, but they were out there with us. And a couple of weeks ago, it was freezing in New Orleans, and they were out there with us as well. And so thank you so much for bringing this up. And again, thank you, Second Harvest, for your partnership, for your continued partnership dealing with the COVID-19.
Councilman President?
Yeah, so thank you, Councilmember Palmer, for bringing this. And, you know, I have to say that I think most people just are very aware of Second Harvest as, you know, being part of food banks and the food drives that have been happening. But I also want to mention just how impactful they are with dealing on resources coming from the state and federal level, and dealing with, you know, making sure that USDA is giving the city of New Orleans what it needs, and that our city is prioritized. And I mean, early on, they were so influential, dealing with members of Congress, dealing with federal officials, and making sure that everyone understood why New Orleans was in such a dire situation when it came to food needs, because our hospitality industry, where the predominant number of our jobs come, was just decimated. And so that story needed to be told, and the people on the ground here at Second Harvest told that story. And because of that, we were able to get the resources that we received from the federal government. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that work that's happening too. I don't know how they get it all done. I really don't. But to that point, that is the reason why they need to be recognized, because they have done just so much good for our city for many years, but particularly in this past very trying year that we've had. So thank you.
Well, and thank you, Councilman Moreno, because I know you helped a great deal with that and helping them navigate through the state and the federal, and we're a huge advocate in that process. So thank you too for your work on that. Anyone else? Councilmember Banks?
Thank you, ma'am. I too want to echo my sincerest appreciation to Second Harvest for what they did for us uptown in District B. And we could not have provided those food distributions without their help. They were extremely generous, and I know we helped a tremendous amount of families. Now, unlike you, I don't have quantitative numbers or Cindy Buku, but I can tell you it was a whole bunch. All right. So with that, I can remember the lines would go from the entrance to Goodwill, back to Tulane, back to Carrollton, and then cross Earhart. And they would be consistent for most of the day when we were out there. And without them helping us, I know that we would not have been able to do that. And those families that benefited, I know that they were obviously out there in need and needed the help. And I know that just like with anything, when you're giving something away, there'll be some get-overs and there'll be people that want to game the system. But I think for the most part, the people that came to those drives really needed the assistance. And I think I can definitely quantify that, because we had one day when the weather was supposed to be really, really bad. We did our distributions in the morning, and there were people that were lined up out there before 7, but we got a call that people were lined up. So I asked staff to go out and let them know that we would be moving it back till 4 o'clock. Well, some of those people stayed in line from 7 in the morning until 4 o'clock. That's not a get over. That's somebody that legitimately needed the help, because they did not want to miss the opportunity. So they stayed there literally all day. And I know that we made a tremendous difference in those families' lives. And I also want to say, piggybacking on this, thank you to the Hellis Foundation, who made a significant contribution to help us purchase food. And I want to say thank you to the Hellis Foundation for helping us purchase the food through Second Harvest. And it was all a magnificent effort that shows how New Orleanians come together and support each other. And I've said this repeatedly, we're the most resilient community anywhere. And give us whatever you got, because we're going to figure out a way to make it work, and we will likely be helping each other to get through it. So with that, again, thank you all, and I'm happy to partner with you in this resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Druso?
I just wanted to say, I guess, two things in addition to what everybody else has said that obviously we agree with. Number one is Second Harvest not only provided food, but they provided really good quality food. And I think that's something that really shouldn't be overlooked, is that it wasn't the cans that we frequently keep at the bottom of our pantry and like, how do I get rid of the pumpkin stuff that nobody's using right now, right? Like that it was not that. It was fresh milk and produce and vegetables and protein. And so it was a full family meals, plural, that people were getting when they came. And so I really want to appreciate the fact that they really stepped up to provide high quality food too. And then secondly, really, not only in addition to Second Harvest, but how many volunteers have helped us out tremendously too, is that we had people, as Jay was saying, who came out in bad weather and hot weather and gorgeous weather, but they were there. So in particular, for everybody who came out to the seminary, you all know who you are. I can't say everybody by name. I want to thank the volunteers too, because obviously there's one thing about somebody like Second Harvest and Hellis helping providing the resources, but you need to have the human capital as well, and really appreciate all the people who helped us as much as they did. Thank you so much, Councilmember.
I don't know about you, Joe, but I had people that had lost their jobs, and they still came out to volunteer because they also wanted to help the next person because they were physically able. I mean, it was just, the stories were incredible.
It was unbelievable. And we had people who were from corporations who came. We had people who either were unemployed or underemployed who came. We had people who were just hey, I can make the time to do this on this Monday, so I'm going to come do it. We had neighborhood leaders, so it was a great cross section, and watching people sort of roll up their sleeves and help out their neighbors was really satisfying.
Thank you. Councilmember at Large, Councilmember Glapion?
Yes, just want to chime in also to say, from the very beginning of the pandemic crisis, Second Harvest has stepped up to the plate. When schools were faced with trying to move from an in-person model to hybrid models and mobile pickup of meals, they were instrumental. And when there may have been a situation where COVID spread amongst the few folks that were still there from the cafeteria staff, they were able to step in and provide meals there. So they were just from the very beginning, very instrumental in making sure children and families in particular still were able to get quality meals consistently. And so we just appreciate all of the hard work that they've done throughout this, the pandemic.
Thank you.
Kristen?
Yes, Councilman Banks.
I'm sorry, and I was negligent in my comments. I forgot to specifically thank Charles and Catherine, who were the logistics people who were out there with us, literally toting boxes and helping us every single time. So I have to give them a special thank you, because they were out there with us every single time, and they made it happen. They were so pleasant and easy to work with. And again, I just want to tell them thank you. So thank you, ma'am.
We can't forget Natalie Jaro, the fearless leader of the whole group. You know, she would still always take my calls, even if we were begging for more food. And then I do want to shout out to Mamie Jackson, who did all the logistics and made sure everybody got their trucks. She's incredible. I'm sorry, Councilmember Brissette.
Thank you, Kristen, too. And I want to thank Second Harvest for their work and contributions. This food has gone a long way to, feeding people and making ends meet, from Meone Boys Home to Sojourner Truth at Lafitte and to St. Mary's of the Angels in Upper Ninth Ward. We tried to cross paths across the district, and it's been extraordinary to see the expression upon people's faces to get what they can at these food pantries and food drives. And so, it's been also a pleasure to have the amount of volunteers that just show up, from all walks of life and just participate. And so it's a great feeling, and to have this going on throughout the city. So just want to add my words of thanks to Second Harvest and to all of our staffs that make this possible and for this to operate. Thank them as well. This is much needed, and despite the current stimulus that has been enacted into law, there are people that are still in need, and we of course going to continue to push forward with providing this much needed benefit to them. So thank you.
Thank you. And then over to y'all, I also just want to raise awareness that I know it just doesn't seem like it, but we're about to start hurricane season again, June 1, and their supplies are very much depleted at Second Harvest. And so they need to start working up to build up their supplies. And I know we're all going to start pushing out a graphic to just encourage folks to donate either monetarily or volunteer hours just to get them back to where they need to be to hit another season, which hopefully, touch wood, won't be bad. So with that, are there any other comments? No? Well then, Ms. Laura, can we please have a vote?
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette?
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion?
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno?
Yay.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer?
Yay.
Councilmember Banks?
Yay.
Councilmember Druso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the resolution has been adopted. At the bottom of the page, we have Resolution R 21-127 by Councilmember Banks, supporting the Barone Lofts Development's Affordable Housing Program application to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas for subsidy to develop affordable housing on land awarded in a competitive request for proposal. The governing authority of the Parish of Orleans supports and adopts by resolution this revitalization plan.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, I'm asking for your support in this resolution. This is to put into commerce a vacant Hano lot that's been vacant for way too long, and we're going to construct senior housing. It is uptown in the heart of Central City. It is a very desirable neighborhood, and we have a desperate need to have affordable housing and senior housing. And this resolution is in support of the project. We have gone through all of the mechanisms to get it done. Actually, the zoning has all been changed. We approved that at a previous meeting, but this resolution is to help them with the financing. So with that, I move for approval, and I would appreciate a second and your vote.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Giarrusso. Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Wynn.
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette.
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Giarrusso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the resolution has been adopted. Council members, we need to suspend the rules to go to ordinances on first reading.
So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Oh, who was that, Madam Clerk?
The one I heard, I heard Councilmember Wynn's voice the loudest.
Okay. Councilmember Wynn.
Okay. Councilmember Wynn.
Yay.
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Giarrusso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the rules are suspended.
Okay, good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Ordinance calendar number 33,286 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenue for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate federal grant funds awarded by Flood Mitigation Assistance Program to the Office of Homeland Security to assist with the elevation of historic properties in the city of New Orleans and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,287 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate federal grant funds awarded by the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program to the Office of Homeland Security to assist with the elevation of historic properties in the city of New Orleans and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,288 by Councilmember Wynn by request, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement among the city of New Orleans, the New Orleans Recreation Development Commission, and the New Orleans Recreation Development Foundation for a term greater than 1 year for the public purpose of supporting, promoting, stimulating public interest in, and raising and distributing funds to benefit the construction, creation, preservation, and maintenance of public parks and playgrounds, recreational facilities, and recreation and other leisure programs and activities in the city of New Orleans as more fully detailed in the corporate endeavor agreement attached here to as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,289 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing a budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate funds from the LA Department of Treasury to the Office of Homeland Security to be used by the Real-Time Crime Crime Center towards the repair and acquisition of security equipment and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,290 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate funds from Louisiana Department of Treasury to the Office of Homeland Security to be used by Real-Time Crime Center towards the repair and acquisition of security equipment and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,291 by Councilmember Jeruso. An ordinance to establish a conditional use of permit of bar and live entertainment secondary use in the historic urban neighborhood mixed-use district, a greenway corridor design overlay district, an enhancement corridor design overlay district, and an arts and culture diversity overlay district in square 360 lot 3-A in the second municipal district bounded by North Broad Street, Lafitte Street, Tula Street, and North White Street. Municipal addresses 601 through 615 North Broad Street, 2701 through 2707 Lafitte Street, and 2716 Tula Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket number 1221. Ordinance calendar number 33,292 by Councilmember Banks. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a neighborhood commercial establishment in the historic urban two-family residential district on square 279, lot A, the Fort Municipal District bounded by Dryade Street, Toledano Street, Daniel Street, and Harmony Street. Municipal address is 3221 through 3225 Dryade Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket number 521. Ordinance calendar number 33,293 by Councilmember Banks. An ordinance to grant an affordable housing plan development in a historic urban two-family residential district on square 441 lots 24 through 33, bounded by South Johnson Street, 4th Street, Moments Court, and South Galvin Street. Municipal addresses 2701 South Johnson Street and 3400 4th Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket number 1821. Ordinance calendar number 33,294 by Councilmember Banks by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into an agreement to grant a servitude to an adjacent property owner for encroachments on over portions of public right-of-way located at the municipal address 611 Commerce Street to fix the minimum price in terms of said servitude agreement, to declare that such use as granted in the servitude agreement will incorporate space that is neither needed for public purposes, nor shall such use interfere with the use of public right-of-way, to set forth the reasons for said servitude agreement and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,295 by Councilmember Banks by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into an agreement to lease an adjacent property owner for encroachments on over portions of public right-of-way located at the municipal address 622 Canal Street to fix the minimum price in terms of said lease agreement, to declare that such use as granted in the lease agreement will incorporate space that is neither needed for public purposes, nor shall such use interfere with the use of public right-of-way, to set forth the reason for said lease agreement and otherwise to provide respect thereto. And that completes all the ordinances on first reading.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Temple. So with that, if no one has any additional comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Glapion. Can I get a second? No one wants to leave?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Nguyen. She might have left. Councilmember Brissette. Councilmember Glapion.
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 5 yeas, no nays, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
You do the same. Thank you.
Everybody remember to get a vaccine and wear your mask. Wear your mask,
Wear your mask.
everybody.
All right, Mr. Banks. Thank you.
Bye, Miss Laura. Bye, Miss Temple.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Councilmember Jeruso.